Chapter 328. Entering the palace to report good news, Your Highness. At this moment, Jiang Yan's voice suddenly echoed from the entrance. Seeing her come in, Pei Wu gave a bow and then promptly left. Jiang Yan greeted Xiao Juanhao with a bow and then took a seat beside him. Why has the princess consort come here? Due to their previous interactions involving silver, Xiao Junhao's attitude towards Jiang Yan had become much warmer. Although they weren't extremely close, their exchanges were amicable. Hearing Xiao Juanhao, Jiang Yan responded with a smile. 1 a.m. here to share some joyous news with Your Highness. Joyous news? What might that be? Hearing Jiang Yan's words, doubt shone in Xiao Junhao's eyes. Meeting his puzzled gaze, Jiang Yan softly placed a hand on her belly, whispering, Your Highness, I am pregnant. What did you say? Xiao Juanhao instinctively looked at Jiang Yan's abdomen. Noting her gesture, his eyes reflected a hint of pleasant surprise. Princess consort, is what you say true? The doctor has already confirmed. Thus, one came especially to inform Your Highness of this wonderful news. However, I'm also worried about any potential misdiagnosis. I've heard that side consort Lin is well-versed in medicine. Perhaps she could examine me too? Someone. Your Highness. As Xiao Juanhao spoke, a servant by the doorway stepped forward. Seeing him, Xiao Juanhao said lightly, Go and invite secondary consort Lin over.
Yes.
After the servant left, Jiang Yan continued, I heard that the Empress is also pregnant?
Indeed.
Hearing Jiang Yan's words, the elation in Xiao Junhao's eyes vanished instantly. Observing this, Jiang Yan whispered, Your Highness, the Empress holds a significant position. If she gives birth to a prince, the other princes might become insignificant. Of course, I am aware that the birth of a child isn't something we can control. Xiao Juanhao was acutely aware of everything Jiang Yan was hinting at. Jiang Yan's smile remained unchanged. After Xiao Juanhao finished speaking, she lowered her voice, Your Highness, given this uncertainty, why not eliminate this variable in its infancy? You suggest that one should harm the child in the Empress womb? Hearing Jiang Yan's words, Xiao Juanhao subconsciously looked at her with a complicated look in his eyes. Upon hearing Jiang Yan's words, Xiao Juanhao looked at her, his eyes filled with complexity. Yet, Jiang Yan's smile never wavered. Looking at Xiao Juanhao, she quipped, Your Highness, have you ever heard the phrase, killing with a borrowed knife? Why should Your Highness personally intervene? The pregnancy of the Empress must be causing distress not only to you, but to others as well. After all, the Emperor has numerous sons. Jiang Yan ceased speaking as footsteps were heard approaching. Submerged in thought after Jiang Yan's words, Xiao Junhao's mind was brought back by Lin Mingyu's voice. Greetings, Your Highness and Your Highness consort. Lin Mingyao approached the two and offered a soft bow. Hearing Lin Mingyu's voice, Xiao Junhao turned his attention to her. Before Xiao Junhao could speak, Jiang Yan interjected, Side consort Lin, today, we've asked for you because one haven't been feeling well. After consulting the doctor, he believes I'm pregnant. I don't trust the doctor's diagnosis entirely. Knowing your proficiency in medicine, I thought it best to have you diagnose me. Jiang Yan's voice was gentle, and her face radiated with a smile. But her eyes lacked any hint of mirth when looking at Lin Mingyao. Hearing this, Lin Mingyu's expressions were equally intricate. Yao heir, please diagnose the princess consort. It was Xiao Junhao's voice that brought Lin Mingyao back to the present. Wearing a warm smile, Lin Mingyao approached Jiang Yan. After sitting, she said, Your Highness consort, allow me to take your pulse. Hearing this, Jiang Yan extended her hand. Lin Mingyao examined Jiang Yan thoroughly. Releasing her hand, she confirmed with a smile, Indeed, Your Highness consort exhibits signs of pregnancy. That's wonderful news. Your Highness, if one bear a son, he will be the Emperor's eldest grandson. Indeed, the first of the Emperor's grandchildren. That's right. Xiao Junhao's eyes sparkled with joy. Your Highness, even though it's not yet been 3 months and such matters are typically kept quiet, considering this child might be the Emperor's first grandchild, perhaps it's best you report this joyous news to the Emperor. You're right. This matter should be reported to Imperial Father, But, Your Highness, one have a request. What is it? The attendants by my side are rather clumsy. Since side consort is adept in medicine, might she look after me during my pregnancy? What do you think, Your Highness? This? Hearing Jiang Yan's words, Xiao Juanhao instinctively glanced at Lin Mingyao. The man seemed to have thought of something, and there was some hesitation in his eyes. At this, Lin Mingyao interjected, Your Highness, I've been tasked with matters you've previously assigned, and am presently engaged with them. One fear may first not have the time to attend to the princess consort. If one were to neglect her, wouldn't that be my fault? Then Xiao Juanhao said, Princess consort, if you are unsatisfied with the attendants, one can arrange experienced maids from the palace to serve you. Thank you, Your Highness, Jiang Yin replied. Rest well. I'll proceed to the palace to report the good news. Following these words, Xiao Juanhao left, leaving Jiang Yin and Lin Mingyao seated. Once he departed, the smile on Jiang Yan's face vanished, replaced by a gloomy expression. Chapter 329. Madame Li's worry. After bowing to Emperor Qiming, Xiao Juanhao smiled at him and said, Father, one came today to report good news. Oh, today, the main princess consort was found to be pregnant. This is a happy occasion, and I've come to share the joy with you. Your wife is pregnant? Upon hearing Xiao Junhao's words, Emperor Qiming's expression brightened considerably. Yes, the doctor has confirmed it. The empress just got pregnant, and now your wife is pregnant too. It seems that the fortunes of our Qi kingdom are truly flourishing. Emperor Qiming's eyes were filled with joy. Looking at Xiao Juanhao in front of him, Emperor Qiming advised, The child in your wife's womb will be my first grandchild. Whether a boy or girl, their status will be unique. Ensure she is well taken care of.
Yes.
Wang Kuan, go to the storeroom and find some nourishing supplements. Later, have them sent to Prince Qing's mansion.
Yes.
Given the news of the Qing princess consort pregnancy, Emperor Qiming's attitude toward Xiao Juanhao improved greatly, and he no longer brought up past issues. Upon leaving the Qinqing palace, Xiao Junhao's eyes were filled with smiles. However, instead of leaving the palace directly, he headed towards the inner palace. The news of Qing princess consort's pregnancy had yet to spread among the court officials, as they were still engrossed in the surprise of the empress' pregnancy. And while there were those thrilled by the news, others were terrified. At the court officials' mansion of the Li family, she's pregnant? How is that possible? Upon hearing the news, Madame Li dropped her teacup on the carpet, shattering it instantly. Madam, please keep your voice down. An old nanny beside her tried to calm Madame Li, whispering soothing words. Madame Li, after regaining her composure, still had a hint of panic in her eyes. After all we've done, how can she still be pregnant? It's said that the Queen of Chang Mansion happened to have improved the Queen's health. Is there really such a coincidence? Lu Yun, do you think she knows what we did? Upon hearing Madame Li's words, Lu Yun paled but reassured in a low voice. No way. Madam, all these years you've shown great affection towards the Empress. She would never suspect you. It must be a coincidence. My lord. Just as Madame Li was about to speak, she heard a voice from the entrance. Exchanging glances with Lu Yun, she greeted the newcomer with a smile. Lord Li, dressed in a blue robe, walked into Madame Li's courtyard with a stern expression. But today, there was a hint of warmth in his otherwise stern eyes. My lord, what brings you to my quarters today? The Empress is pregnant. I've just received the news and came to share it with you. When mentioning the Empress, Lord Li's eyes were filled with tenderness. Witnessing this, a complex emotion flickered in Madame Li's eyes. But when Lord Li looked at her, her expression quickly returned to normal, and she responded with a smile. This is truly wonderful news. I'll have some nourishing supplements prepared and sent to the palace. You are meticulous in your tasks. You handle the arrangements. However, given the Empress is now pregnant and will have many expenses, when you send the supplements, prepare a little more silver as well. Upon hearing Lord Li's words, Madame Li seemed startled. Noticing her silence, Lord Li couldn't help but look at her. Madam, did you hear what I said? I was too overjoyed. One forgot what you mentioned, my lord. My lord, rest assured. One will have the silver prepared. Hearing this, Lordly nodded in satisfaction. Moments later, Lordly left. Madame Li watched his retreating figure, her eyes filled with a gloomy expression. Lu Yun, did you see? After all these years in his heart, it's always been about his eldest daughter. Madam, prepare some supplements and have them sent to the palace. Remember, prepare them yourself. Upon hearing Madame Li's instructions, Lu Yun wanted to say something, but she remained silent, simply nodding and giving a bow. Zhang Peihuan was completely unaware of these happenings. After returning to the general's mansion, Zhang Peihuan returned to her secluded lifestyle. But the next morning, someone from the Empress Palace visited her in the plum garden. It was the Empress' personal maid. Seeing her, Zhang Peihuan greeted with a smile. What brings you here today? Does the Empress have any instructions? Queen Sheng, the Empress wishes to invite you to the Kuanning Palace for a visit. If that's the case, please wait a moment for me to change. There's no rush, Queen Sheng. Take your time. Zhang Peihuan smiled and headed inside without another word. Moments later, Zhang Peihuan emerged. However, as she walked into the courtyard, she noticed Xiao Nani approaching. Xiao Nani originally went to Jiang Shangbai's courtyard to talk to him. Upon hearing the news, he rushed straight to the plum garden. Greetings, Your Highness. The Empress maid, familiar with Xiao Nani, immediately greeted him. He nodded in acknowledgement, then turned to Zhang Peihuan. If you're visiting Imperial sister-in-law, I'll accompany you. As Xiao Nani approached, Zhang Peihuan noticed the beads of sweat on his forehead, indicating his haste. Hearing him, Zhang Peihuan smiled and wiped away his sweat with her handkerchief, then gently said, I'm merely going to chat with the Empress. What are you going to do there? Didn't elder brother want to discuss weapon improvements with you? Stay home and discuss it with him. You don't need to accompany me to the palace. When you are talking to Imperial sister-in-law, one will go and find Imperial brother. I won't disturb you. The implication was clear. He wanted to go with her. Zhang Peihuan felt helpless. For some time now, Xiao Nani had become clingy, always wanting to accompany her everywhere. In that case, let's go together. As they both made their way to the entrance, a white shadow darted out from the plum garden. Zhang Peihuan felt a tug on her dress. Turning around, she saw Xiao Bai biting her skirt. She frowned. Xiao Bai, no biting? Hearing Zhang Peihuan's words, Xiao Bai released the skirt but looked up at her, clearly indicating he wanted to come along too. We're heading to the palace, you can't come. Before Zhang Peihuan could respond, Xiao Nani directly addressed Xiao Bai. His eyes gleamed mischievously as he spoke. Chapter 330. Zhang Peihuan entering the palace. Seeing this, Zhang Peihuan felt even more helpless. Xiao Bai didn't look at Xiao Juanhao but raised its head to look at Zhang Peihuan. Although Xiao Bai had been tamed considerably, it was still, after all, a wolf. Zhang Peihuan didn't dare to take it to the palace. After thinking for a moment, Zhang Peihuan gently stroked Xiao Bai's head and softly said, Xiao Bai, one have important matters to attend to and I can't take you. In a few days, they'll take you hunting outside the city. Upon hearing the first part, Xiao Bai lowered its head in disappointment. But at the latter part, it perked up with excitement. Seeing this, Zhang Peihuan laughed and petted it, then turned to Yu Er and said, Take it back and give it some treats.
Yes.
After calming Xiao Bai, Zhang Peihuan and Xiao Nani boarded the carriage to the palace. Both headed straight to Kuanning Palace. Upon seeing Xiao Nani following Zhang Peihuan, the Empress' eyes were filled with amusement. I just wanted Huan Er to come for a chat, and you came too? Imperial sister-in-law, just treat me as if I'm not here. I won't interrupt. You really are? Hearing Xiao Nani's words, the Empress paused, her smile deepening. Your Royal Majesty, don't mind him. Did you call me today for a particular matter? I did call you for something, but it's not urgent. Sit and rest first. Nanny, bring the milk for the queen. The Empress still remembered that Zhang Peihuan liked milk and had it prepared in advance. Seeing this, Zhang Peihuan didn't say anything, quietly sipping her milk. After more than an hour, the Empress got to the point. She gestured to the nanny and whispered, Bring everything here.
Yes.
Moments later, Zhang Peihuan saw the table in the inner hall filled with various gifts. Seeing these items, her eyes widened in surprise. Catching her surprised look, the Empress softly said, "These are gifts sent by the Li household. That is, from Madame Li." After a moment's silence, Zhang Peihuan spoke directly, "Your Royal Majesty, did you call me to see if there's any issue with these gifts?"
Yes.
Hearing Zhang Peihuan's words, the Empress nodded and smiled. "Huan heir, you truly are sharp-witted. If I called for the imperial doctor, it might create complications. So, one had to bring you into the palace. Thank you for coming. Your Royal Majesty, you're too kind. I should thank you properly for the matter regarding the fourth princess." Speaking of the fourth princess, the Empress didn't say anything more. Emperor Qi Ming originally wanted to betroth the fourth princess to Jiang Changbai and planned to discuss it with Jiang Hong. Subsequently, Xiao Nani sought the Empress. No one knew how the Empress arranged it, but the secret meeting between the fourth princess and someone from the Zhao family was discovered by palace servants. Even if Emperor Qi Ming valued his daughter highly, he felt too embarrassed to mention this incident. He immediately reprimanded concubine Ming and arranged for the fourth princess to be married off to the Zhao family. Setting her teacup aside, Zhang Peihuan began examining the pile of supplements on the table. These supplements were top-notch tonics. However, as she inspected, she couldn't help but frown. There was something unclean on every item. By the end of her examination, Zhang Peihuan's eyes were darkened. "Your Royal Majesty, these items should be discarded immediately." Though the Empress had already anticipated this, a trace of sadness appeared in her eyes upon hearing it. Although she had already guessed the result, when she really heard this, the Empress' eyes still revealed a bit of sadness. "I overthought things." She had believed that Madame Li held some genuine affection for her. After all, she was her maternal aunt and had been called mother for many years. "Your Royal Majesty, you're pregnant now. Please don't get upset." Seeing the Empress' displeasure, Zhang Peihuan softly advised. Upon hearing Zhang Peihuan's voice, the Empress composed herself and then said, "Huan heir, thank you for this. Your Royal Majesty, shouldn't you inform the lordly? After all, he is your biological father. We cannot tell him." The moment Zhang Peihuan spoke, the Empress responded firmly. Seeing the confusion in Zhang Peihuan's eyes, the Queen smiled softly. "Huan heir, not everyone is as fortunate as you, having a family to rely upon. Informing my father will only add to his worries. He can't abandon my mother, nor can he turn against my external family." With those few words, Zhang Peihuan understood where Madame Li's confidence came from. "Your Royal Majesty, even if you don't inform Lord Li, doing nothing will only embolden her further. I'll handle this. Imperial sister-in-law, it's fine if you don't tell the Lord Li about this. However, doing nothing will only embolden her further. Therefore, I will take care of this matter." Xiao Nani, who had been silent all this while, suddenly looked at the Empress and spoke. Hearing Xiao Nani's words, the Empress quickly replied, "Nani, don't act recklessly. Imperial sister-in-law, don't worry. I know what to do. It's getting late, you should rest." After saying this, Xiao Nani took Zhang Peihuan and left. "Why do you keep staring at me?" In the carriage, Xiao Nani suddenly addressed Zhang Peihuan. Hearing his voice, Zhang Peihuan laughed, leaning into him and softly said, "One thought the King Cheng was cold-hearted to everyone. After the imperial mother passed away, the emperor kept me close, fearing I'd lack care. However, he was always busy and never had time for me. The great Empress Dowager took every opportunity to try to kill me. Only the Empress looked after me. Although imperial sister-in-law took care of me because of imperial brother, but I still remember her kindness." Zhang Peihuan listened quietly as Xiao Nani shared his story. After he finished, she softly asked, "So, how does King Qing plan to help the Empress seek justice?" "I will give them a taste of their own medicine." That night, at the Li Mansion. "Madam, it's terrible. The second young miss had an accident." Madame Li was roused from her sleep by a frantic knocking at her door. By the time Madame Li, assisted by her maidservant, stepped out, she saw her daughter's maid, eyes filled with tears. Why are you shouting in the middle of the night? Madam, the second young miss keeps vomiting blood. You, an heir? Hearing the maid's words, Madame Lee's face turned pale. She rushed to the second young miss courtyard. When she reached the door, what met her eyes was her daughter, continuously vomiting blood. Chapter 331. Something happened to the Empress. Second Miss Lee lay in bed, incessantly coughing up blood. Her face was a gruesome shade of pale. Seeing this, Madame Lee felt as if her soul was about to be snatched away in fear. Where's the doctor? Quickly, fetch the doctor. Madam, second young miss seems to have been poisoned. But one do not know what poison she has ingested. It seems as though she's been affected by multiple toxins, a servant reported. Before Madame Lee could respond, the doctor nearby quickly chimed in. But just by hearing the mention of poison, her eyes were filled with terror. At this moment, Lu Yun, second Miss Lee's state, suddenly froze. Madam Lee, her eyes filled with anxiety, heard Lu Yun's voice and impatiently asked, "What is it?" "My lady, it seems that second young miss might have." Lu Yun lowered her voice, whispering a few words into Madame Lee's ear. Whatever she said, upon hearing it and then looking back at second young miss, Madame Lee's eyes were filled with renewed horror. That night, the Lee mansion was in utter chaos. Yet throughout, they dared not seek the imperial doctor's help from the palace. Regarding the affairs of the Lee mansion, Zhang Peihuan did not pry into the details, for she believed that Xiao Nani had things under control. He wouldn't actually let someone die. Thus, in about half a month's time, second Miss Lee recovered. However, that very night, someone from the imperial palace knocked on the door of the general's mansion. The visitor was Wang Kuan. So even though it was the middle of the night, Zhang Peihuan immediately got out of bed. As Zhang Peihuan was rising, Xiao Nani also quickly got up. "Chief Wang, what's the matter that you've come at such a late hour?" "Queen Cheng, you must quickly come see the Empress." Wang Kuan, usually calm, looked visibly distressed. Noticing the urgency in his eyes, Zhang Peihuan asked, "What has happened to the Empress?" "The Empress suffers from unbearable abdominal pain. The imperial doctor are clueless. She insisted on seeing you, and His Majesty had no choice but to send me to fetch you." "All right, I'll accompany you to the palace immediately." Hearing about the Empress' severe pain, Zhang Peihuan didn't even bother to change her attire. She left in her casual clothes with Wang Kuan. Xiao Nani followed, draping a cloak over her. Beware of the cold. He carefully placed the cloak around Zhang Peihuan and made sure it was fastened. Sitting in the carriage, Zhang Peihuan couldn't help but ask Xiao Nani, "Do you think this has anything to do with the Li family?" Hearing the mention of the Li family, a shadow passed over Xiao Nani's eyes. If it truly is the doing of the Li family, then I'm afraid their end is near. Zhang Peihuan's first instinct was to associate the incident with the Li family. However, upon entering the Kuan-Ning Palace, she began to doubt that theory. The Empress was resting in her inner chamber, which Zhang Peihuan had no choice but to enter. This was her first time visiting the Empress' sleeping quarters. However, as soon as she entered the room, she detected an array of unsettling scents. "Queen Cheng, you've arrived." Seeing Zhang Peihuan, the old nanny by the Empress' side seemed to regard her as a savior. "Nanny, you personally bring the people too." Listening to Zhang Peihuan's arrangement, the nanny had coldness in her eyes, but she responded to Zhang Peihuan with great respect. "Rest assured, Queen Cheng, I will handle this." The Empress lay in bed, her body drenched in cold sweat. She held her stomach tightly, her eyes filled with fear. Seeing Zhang Peihuan, the Empress' eyes lit up. "Huan heir, you're here. Don't be afraid, your royal majesty." After paying her respects to the Empress, Zhang Peihuan held the Empress' hand. Once the Empress calmed down, Zhang Peihuan then took her pulse. "Queen Cheng, how is the Empress?" Emperor Qi Ming and Xiao Nani waited outside. As Zhang Peihuan emerged, the Emperor immediately inquired, "Your Majesty, Her Royal Majesty has been poisoned. I've prescribed a remedy, but perhaps one should have my nanny prepare it." After saying this, Zhang Peihuan directed Yi Xiao, "You go and prepare the medicine."
Yes.
Seeing this, Emperor Qi Ming's eyes displayed a hint of anger. Turning his anger aside, he told Wang Kuan, watch closely. I want to see who dares to harm the Empress and the Prince.
Yes.
After Wang Kuan and Yi Xiao left, Emperor Qi Ming looked at Zhang Peihuan. When you checked the Empress, did you discover anything? She has musk poisoning. Fortunately, she consumed a small amount, so there's still time. I noticed some things were tampered with in the Empress quarters. By this time, the Empress nanny had brought forward evidence. Furthermore, behind the nanny were several maids and eunuchs, all bound. Seeing this, Emperor Qi Ming's already stern expression darkened further. The Empress nanny nurse knelt, tears in her eyes. Your Majesty, you must seek justice for the Empress. They wanted to kill both her and the unborn prince. Explain everything. Hearing the Emperor, the nanny directed her words at the bound eunuchs and maids. Speak the truth before His Majesty. Your Majesty, we're innocent. We did nothing. One. Innocent? Didn't you care for the orchids in the Empress room? Why is there musk in the flower pot? Claiming ignorance? Rebels. Drag them out and execute them. Emperor Qi Ming commanded, eyes blazing with fury. But Xiao Nani calmly interjected. Wait. Meeting the Emperor's gaze, he sneered. If we execute them now, we'd let their masters go unpunished. Let me handle them. I'm sure they won't withstand the tortures of the Ministry of Justice. Han Feng, take them away. However, someone then spoke. Your Majesty, it's Consort Shu. Once one person spoke, others followed suit. Consort Shu, Consort Xian, and Consort Ming. None were left out. Consort Shu, Consort Xian, noble Consort Ming. None of them were left behind. Hearing this, Emperor Qi Ming's face turned dark as coal. Zhang Peihuan watched with mocking eyes. When the Empress was childless, the side consort kept the peace. But with news of the Empress' pregnancy, they couldn't stay calm. My queen, the medicine is ready. Yi Xiao entered with the medicine. Chapter 332. Chapter 332 Stand out. Zhang Peihuan gazed upon the scene before her, addressing Emperor Qi Ming directly. Your Majesty, one shall tend to the Empress now. Without waiting for Emperor Qi Ming's response, Zhang Peihuan, accompanied by Yi Xiao, entered the Empress chamber. By the time Zhang Peihuan entered, the Empress had already opened her eyes, likely having heard the commotion outside. Zhang Peihuan didn't speak immediately, but took the medicine from Yi Xiao's hands. She then looked at the Empress and whispered, Your Royal Highness, please take the medicine. Yi Xiao stepped forward, propping a pillow behind the Empress. Seeing the medicine Zhang Peihuan brought to her lips, the Empress opened her mouth to take it. After swallowing the medicine, the Empress said softly, All these years I've been in the palace, I have never wronged them. Yet they harbor such deep hatred for me and the child within me. It's not you they despise, but the titles of Empress and Crown Prince, Zhang Peihuan responded, even though she hadn't wanted to. But she knew the Empress needed someone to talk to. Hearing this, a bitter expression appeared on the Emperor's face. Your Royal Highness, be at ease. The Emperor will make the right decision. Zhang Peihuan consoled, and the Empress finished the bowl of medicine. Just as Zhang Peihuan handed the empty bowl to Yi Xiao, cries could be heard from outside. Your Majesty, I had nothing to do with this. One have no idea why the maid would accuse me. I swear one have never ordered her to poison the Empress. Inside, Zhang Peihuan noticed the fury in the Empress' eyes upon hearing these accusations. She quickly took the Empress' hand, saying, Your Royal Highness, don't be angry. Remember the child within you. Outside, the cries continued. Your Majesty, you've known me since we were children. You know one could never even hurt an ant. How could I poison? Your Majesty, the Empress needs rest. Someone interjected, interrupting the distressed voice. Looking up, they saw Zhang Peihuan standing at the entrance to the Empress chamber. Upon seeing Zhang Peihuan, Emperor Qi Ming quickly inquired about the well-being of the Empress and the child. Her Royal Majesty has just taken her medicine and needs rest. But the noise outside is disturbing her, Zhang Peihuan said. Imperial brother, do not let these cries disturb the peace of my imperial sister-in-law. Conduct the inquiry by the palace gates, said Xiao Nani in a cold voice. After Xiao Nanya's statement, all the eunuchs and palace maids were led out. Emperor Qi Ming had no choice but to follow them to the palace gates. Chairs were quickly set up for him and Xiao Nani. Xiao Nani took Zhang Paihuan's hand and said, "Huan heir, come and sit." Now, all the side consorts stood near the palace gates. Even though it wasn't extremely cold, a chilly breeze was blowing. A gust of cold air made the side consorts shiver involuntarily. "Your Majesty, I am cold," one of them voiced. "Consort Ming, perhaps you should first explain the matter of the Empress being poisoned to the Emperor. Otherwise, plotting against the Crown Prince is a grave crime, and even the Zhao family can't escape punishment." Xiao Nani glanced at Consort Ming, a faint smile on his lips. However, there wasn't the slightest hint of amusement in his eyes, only threats and warnings. Meeting Xiao Nanya's gaze, Consort Ming harbored deep resentment in her heart, but she didn't dare to utter a word. Instead, she cried pitifully. Inside the room, the Empress, with the help of her maid, watched this scene from a distance, mockery evident in her eyes. After all these years, she only knows this one trick. "Your Royal Majesty, you should rest. Queen Chang has instructed that you need plenty of it. With Queen Chang and her husband here, you will be fine." With the maid's support, the Empress laid back in bed. Looking at the maid before her, the Empress whispered, "My past kindness towards Nani was simply because the Emperor favored him. Never did one expect that now he would be the one to stand up for me. Your Royal Majesty? Forget it. Go tell the Emperor that this is a misunderstanding, and he should not pursue it." "Your Royal Majesty, are you sure? Have you ever seen the Emperor truly care for her over these years? Knowing the outcome, it might be better for me to speak up." The maid's eyes were filled with sympathy, but she knew the Empress was right. A moment later, the maid came out and relayed the Empress' message. As expected, upon hearing the Empress' words, Emperor Qi Ming heaved a sigh of relief, and a smug look flashed across Consort Ming's eyes. The other concubines exchanged knowing glances. Watching this, Zhang Peihuan couldn't help but frown. Before, she had only heard of the Empress' gentle nature. Now, she realized the reason behind it. "Imperial brother, one have something to report." "What is it?" Upon hearing Xiao Nanya's words, Emperor Qi Ming responded instinctively. Facing the Emperor, Xiao Nani spoke calmly. "A few days ago, an official from the punishment department reported a case. A man killed a street vendor in broad daylight. That man was Zhao Guang, the legitimate son of the Zhao family. Zhao Guang was not only the legitimate heir of the Zhao family, but also the fiancé of the fourth princess and the nephew of Consort Ming." Upon hearing Xiao Nanya's words, fury blazed in Consort Ming's eyes. However, Xiao Nani ignored her, turning to Emperor Qi Ming. "Imperial brother, there's concrete evidence. How should we handle this?" "Emperor, this must be a misunderstanding." "Guang, a misunderstanding? Are you suggesting I falsely accused him?" Before Consort Ming could finish, Xiao Nani interrupted her. "King Qing always acts justly. However, knowing the close relationship between you and the Empress, and considering the timing of this news about Guang heir, I can't help but suspect you are taking sides with the Empress." As she uttered the last sentence, a sinister look appeared in Consort Ming's eyes. "I am siding with the Empress." "So what?" "Your Majesty, you heard him. King Chang has admitted it. Imperial brother, imperial sister-in-law is your main consort, whom you married grandly from the Xuanwu Gate. Even if Consort Ming is favored, she's still just a side consort. Would you tarnish the Empress' reputation for a mere side consort? A side consort is nothing more than a plaything." Everyone present, except for Zhang Peihuan, were Emperor Qi Ming's side consort. At Xiao Nanya's words, they all wore expressions of displeasure. However, the latter did not care at all. "Imperial brother, if killing a vendor is not a big deal, then is secretly building a gambling house not a grave crime?" Chapter 333. Offended King Qing. When making accusations, one needs evidence. "You've said so much, but where is your proof?" Before Emperor Qi Ming could speak, Consort Ming blurted out. Upon hearing Xiao Nani mention the secret establishment of a gambling den, panic filled Consort Ming's eyes. Consort Ming, if you want proof, it's simple. I have evidence right here, declared Xiao Nani. Turning to someone outside, he commanded, Han Feng, bring forth the testimonies.
Yes.
A tense silence enveloped the palace hall. Seeing Xiao Nanya's demeanor, the empress could no longer sit inside, and with the assistance of her nanny, stood up to leave. Empress, why did you come out? Queen Mother, why are you leaving? Emperor Qi Ming rushed to her side when he saw her. Smiling at Emperor Qi Ming's outstretched hand, the empress softly replied, this matter is of great importance. Since it arose because of me, I should hear it out. She then took a seat nearby. Your Royal Highness, you should rest and take care at this moment, said Jiang Peihuan, taking a cloak from the nanny and draping it over the empress. Feeling the warmth, the empress gently patted Jiang Peihuan's hand, smiling at her in appreciation. Han Feng was swift. In the time it took to brew a cup of tea, he entered with 2 letters. Han Feng came very quickly. In less than 10 minutes, he came in with 2 letters. Let Imperial Brother take a look. Han Feng initially offered the letters to Xiao Nani, but the latter declined with a simple gesture. So, Han Feng presented them to Emperor Qi Ming. Upon reading the contents of the letters, Emperor Qi Ming's expression changed dramatically. How audacious of Zhao Guang. Does he even regard me at all? Your Majesty, there must be a misunderstanding. Please, what misunderstanding? These are his own handwritten letters. Can I possibly be wronging him? Before Consort Ming could finish, Emperor Qi Ming angrily threw the letters onto her. Upon reading the letter, darkness clouded Consort Ming's vision, and she almost fainted. Noble Consort Ming lowered her head and saw the contents of the letter. When she saw the contents, her vision went black and she almost fainted. But she couldn't. Your Majesty, there must be a misunderstanding. Guang'er wouldn't dare, whether he has the audacity or not. Perhaps Imperial Brother, you should have someone investigate further. Seated, Xiao Nani observed Consort Ming's panicked expression, speaking calmly. Hearing this, Consort Ming glared at Xiao Nani with a cold look, unable to counter, only gazing pleadingly at Emperor Qi Ming. I decree that Zhao Guang be thrown into the heavenly prison. Consort Ming, for disrespecting the Empress, is to be confined for 3 months. When mentioning Consort Ming, there was still a hint of softness in Emperor Qi Ming's eyes, as she had been his beloved for many years. Take her away. Your Majesty. Consort Ming, please leave. Seeing Consort Ming trying to reach for Emperor Qi Ming, Wang Kuan promptly intervened. Quickly, Consort Ming was dragged away by the eunuchs. Then, Emperor Qi Ming looked at the group of side consort on the ground. He couldn't bear to punish his beloved woman, but for these others, he had no such reservations. All of you, demoted to the rank of a mere concubine. If you don't learn your lesson, leave for the cold palace. Get lost. Hearing Emperor Qi Ming's words, the concubines wanted to cry, but one glance at his eyes silenced them, and they hurriedly left. In an instant, the entrance to the Kuan-Ning Palace was empty. Once everyone was gone, Emperor Qi Ming turned to the Empress and said, Yin Ran, I'm sorry you had to go through this. Conspiring against the Empress was a grave crime, but he couldn't execute all of the side consort because they also served to balance the court's politics. The Empress wasn't surprised by the outcome. Hearing the Emperor's words, she softly replied, Your Majesty, please don't say that. I don't feel wronged. Your Majesty, you must be tired too. You should rest. One need to rest as well. All right, then have a good rest. Saying this, Emperor Qi Ming started to leave. Seeing Xiao Nani still sitting there, he impatiently said, Come here. Only then did Xiao Nani slowly stand up. You talk with the Empress. They'll come to get you later. Jiang Peihuan nodded, and Xiao Nani left with Emperor Qi Ming. On their way to the Qinqing Palace, the Emperor's patience wore thin, and he tried to kick Xiao Nani. However, Xiao Nani was prepared and dodged. Almost stumbling, the Emperor was caught by Wang Kuan, his attendant. Han Feng, standing at the entrance, couldn't help but smirk at the scene. You dare to dodge? Imperial brother, why resort to violence? Also, you are not my match. Do you want to anger me to death? Why didn't you discuss Zhao Guang's matter privately? How can Ming'er have any pride now? Ming'er is side consort Ming's intimate name. Hearing this, a cold look flashed in Xiao Nanyes's eyes. Had I discussed it privately, would you have acted against Zhao Guang? You wouldn't have. Even if you did, you'd have let it slide after consort Ming pleaded a bit. Imperial brother, you must remember all these years, the one who managed the harem for you was the Empress. She was also the one by your side during tough times. I don't need reminders. One know how much the Empress means to me. It's good that Imperial brother knows. I'm afraid that Imperial brother has already forgotten about it. Go, go. Get out. Seeing you gives me a headache. Upon hearing Emperor Qi Ming's words, Xiao Nani departed from Qinqing Palace without looking back. Watching his receding figure, the anger that Emperor Qi Ming had just managed to suppress surged to his head again. Look at him. Does he still see me as his elder brother in his eyes? Although fury was evident in Emperor Qi Ming's eyes, the anger didn't seem to penetrate deep into his soul. Wang Kuan, standing beside, laughed and said, Your Majesty, King Cheng was raised by you. Though you are his elder brother, in his eyes, you are also like a father. He is simply taking advantage of the indulgence I've given him. But why does this young man hold such grudges? Your Majesty jests. King Cheng is known for his magnanimous heart. How could he bear grudges? You old fox, are you now lying to me too? Do you think I'm unaware? He's so protective of the Empress because she gave him some extra care when he was young. Chapter 334. Drunken Jiang Xijin, he despises Ming'er so much just because when he was 4 years old, the cat raised by Ming'er scratched him. One already had that bastard killed, and yet he still bears such a grudge. Hearing this, Wang Kuan remained silent. Others might not know, but he was aware that the initial reason the cat bit King Cheng was that Consort Ming intentionally caused it. Kuanning Palace. Regarding the events at Qinqing Hall, Zhang Peihuan was unaware. After settling the Empress down on the bed, Zhang Peihuan softly advised, Your Royal Majesty, you should no longer concern yourself with anything. You must prioritize the child in your womb. Wan Er, after being poisoned this time, tell me the truth. Will it affect the child in my womb? There will be some effects, but since your Royal Majesty is still early in the pregnancy, the impact should be minimal. Though Zhang Peihuan constantly reassured her, the Empress' expression remained deeply worried. Seeing this, Zhang Peihuan whispered, Your Royal Majesty, don't worry. Starting tomorrow, we'll come to the palace every day to check your pulse. Really? Upon hearing Zhang Peihuan's words, the Empress' eyes filled with joy. But seeing Zhang Peihuan's pregnant belly, the Empress shook her head. This won't do. You're pregnant too. How can I let you travel back and forth daily? You needn't worry about me, Your Royal Majesty. I know my own body. If I feel unwell, one won't push myself. People are inherently selfish. Hearing this, the Empress nodded in agreement. Has Consort Ming wronged you? Hearing her voice, Xiao Nani looked at her. Why do you ask? Just a guess. Hearing this, a smile emerged on Xiao Nanyes's lips, yet it lacked warmth. Huan Er, your intuition is right. Meeting Zhang Peihuan's puzzled gaze, Xiao Nani whispered, When one was 4, Consort Ming had her black cat bite me. I was young and developed a high fever that very night. It was the imperial sister-in-law who stayed with me throughout. After the emperor learned of this, he had the black cat killed, but Consort Ming remained unharmed. No wonder. This was the first time Zhang Peihuan heard him speak of his childhood. She fell silent for a long while before softly responding. However, Xiao Nani instinctively looked at Zhang Peihuan. Seeing no change in her eyes, he whispered, Huan Er, don't you think I'm vengeful? Not at all. Because if it were me, I would do the same. Hearing her response, a trace of a smile appeared in Xiao Nanyes's eyes. Elder sister, brother-in-law? As Xiao Nani and Zhang Peihuan arrived at the general's mansion, they were greeted by Jiang Xijin and Jiang Songbei waiting at the entrance. Seeing them, Zhang Peihuan softly asked, "Why are both of you waiting here?" Of course, we were waiting for elder sister and brother-in-law. Moments later, Zhang Peihuan and Xiao Nani headed to Jiang Sijin's courtyard. Upon their arrival, Jiang Changbai was packing things, and Lu Xian was also present. Sister Jiang, King Cheng. Seeing Zhang Peihuan and Xiao Nani entering, Lu Xian immediately came forward to salute. "Big brother, are you preparing to barbecue?" Zhang Peihuan noticed the meat slices and charcoal fire nearby. Jiang Changbai was starting the fire. Hearing Zhang Peihuan's words, he said softly, "It's because Si Jin wanted to eat. This barbecued meat is not easy to digest, so I didn't invite our grandmother. Sister Jiang, please sit with His Highness. It'll be ready soon." Lu Xian was very efficient, bustling around behind Jiang Changbai. Seeing this, a smile flashed in Jiang Peihuan's eyes. "Sister Xian, let me help." Just as Jiang Sijin was about to step forward, she was pulled back by Jiang Songbai. "What are you doing? Elder brother and cousin are getting along well. Why are you trying to intervene? Can't you see?" Hearing Jiang Songbei's words, confusion filled Jiang Sijin's eyes. But the smile in Jiang Peihuan's eyes deepened. Shortly after, many barbecued meat slices were served. "All of us siblings love spicy food. Are you okay with it?" Sitting down, Zhang Peihuan turned to the man beside her. Hearing her words, Xiao Nani laughed and said, "Have you forgotten? One spent 2 years in the north." Hearing this, Zhang Peihuan didn't respond. The north is always covered in snow. Almost everyone there eats spicy food to ward off the cold. "Elder brother, how about we get some wine?" After a few bites, Jiang Sijin grabbed Jiang Shangbai's sleeve. But he pulled his sleeve away. "Don't even think about it. You can barely handle 3 cups of wine, yet you shout for it every day. If our parents hear about it, they'll scold me. People say you should drink with big bites of meat. Meat without wine is so dull. You're lucky to have meat. Stop talking nonsense. Just a little, elder brother, please." Jiang Sijin grabbed Jiang Shangbai's sleeve, gazing at him pleadingly. "Impossible." Jiang Changbai shook off her hand, avoiding her gaze. "Last time you got drunk, father scolded me for 2 hours. Did you defend me?" Hearing this, guilt flashed in Jiang Sijin's eyes. "Eldest sister? Don't look at me." Jiang Sijin began to speak, but Zhang Peihuan interrupted her. "Brother-in-law?" At this moment, Jiang Sijin blinked at Xiao Nani. Just as Zhang Peihuan was about to speak, she heard Xiao Nani say, "If you want to drink, then drink. But don't overdo it. Brother-in-law, I declare, from now on, you're my real brother-in-law. So, am not your real brother-in-law now?" Hearing Jiang Sijin's words, Xiao Nani said somewhat irritably, "Hee, now you're even closer." Since Xiao Nani had agreed, neither Jiang Changbai nor Jiang Peihuan objected. But after a moment's thought, Jiang Changbai turned to Xiao Nani. "When our parents smell the alcohol later, you'll have to admit it was your idea." At that moment, Xiao Nani didn't understand the implications of Jiang Shangbai's words. But 2 hours later, he did. Watching Jiang Sijin wave her whip, Xiao Nani, with a headache, looked at Jiang Peihuan. "Is she always like this after drinking? Today is actually one of her better days. Don't run. 111 kill you." As Jiang Peihuan finished speaking, Xiao Nani saw Jiang Sijin hug a tree in the courtyard. She drew her whip, relentlessly whipping the tree. But, be careful, all. Jiang Shangbai's reaction was fast, but still not quick enough. The whip Jiang Sijin had lashed on the tree recoiled and hit her own face. Chapter 335. Jiang Yan's miscarriage. Jiang Sijin immediately let out a painful scream. Seeing this scene, Xiao Nanya's mouth twitched. After whipping herself, Jiang Sijin sobered up from her drunkenness. Zhang Peihuan sent for the doctor, which also alarmed Shui Yan. Upon seeing Shui Yan, Jiang Changbai immediately went to complain. "Mother, this time it's not my fault. It was King Cheng. He allowed Sijin to drink." Hearing Jiang Shangbai's words, Xiao Nani glanced at him before turning to Shui Yan and saying, "Mother, 1 a.m. to blame for this. I let her. It's not your fault." One know her temperament better than you do, Shui Yin interrupted him dismissively. Jiang Changbai, seeing this, expressed his frustration. Mother, how can you favor him so? When Sijin got drunk before, you didn't speak to me like this. Silence. Shui Yin scolded her son coldly. However, when she turned to Xiao Nani, her face showed its usual warmth. Your Highness, you and Huan Er should return to the plum garden and rest. Leave this matter to us. However, when she turned to Xiao Nani, Shui Yan's face showed her usual gentleness. Your Highness, you and Huan Er should go back to the plum garden to rest. You don't have to worry about the matters here.
Yes.
Nodding to Shui Yan, Xiao Nani left with Jiang Peihuan. 3 days later, the entire general's mansion was festively decorated because it was the 6th birthday of the old Madame Jiang. In the Chrysanthemum Hall, Jiang Peihuan presented old Madame Jiang with a forehead cloth, then softly said, Grandmother, one wish you healthy and prosperity. Holding the cloth, old Madame Jiang smiled warmly. Now that you are pregnant, avoid needlework so as not to strain your eyes. Just being by my side is the best gift you can give me. Grandmother, wait until you see the gift I've prepared. You'll surely love it. After Jiang Ruyun presented her gift, Jiang Sijin eagerly presented hers. Hearing her voice, the old madam opened the box immediately. She laughed upon seeing its contents. You cheeky monkey, are you trying to treat your grandmother like a child? Look at this, urged the old madam, prompting everyone to peer inside the box. It contained a variety of amusing clay figures. Though they weren't of great value, they were delightful. Making grandmother happy is the most filial thing one can do, Jiang Sijin said. You all are wonderful. I love each gift, the old madam replied. Old madam, the Princess Qing has arrived. As the Jiang family laughed and chatted with the old madam, an elderly maid, Nanny Su, suddenly approached. Hearing Nanny Zu's words, the smiles on everyone's faces faded. Why is she here? We didn't send an invitation to the Qing mansion. Old madam, one came uninvited. Please forgive me. As Jiang Sijin finished her sentence, Jiang Yan's voice came from the door. Supported by a maidservant, she entered the Chrysanthemum Hall. Other than Jiang Peihuan, everyone stood up and bowed to Jiang Yan. It is an honor for our Jiang mansion that the Princess Qing has come. Please have a seat, Princess Qing. Although they were unsure of Jiang Yan's intentions, old Madame Jiang still wore a full smile and spoke cordially to Jiang Yan. Bring forth the gift one prepared for old Madame Jiang. Jiang Yan's maid stepped forward with a box. Jiang Yan personally opened it, revealing a white jade guanyin statue inside. Old Madam, this white jade guanyin was specially acquired for you. I hope you like it. Thank you, Princess Qing. Yuzhen, take it. Grandmother, it's almost time. Let's head to the banquet. At this point, Jiang Peihuan, who was sitting next to the elderly Mrs. Jiang, spoke up. Given her highest status among them, after Jiang Peihuan's words, Jiang Yin had no choice but to follow her out. The guests had all arrived, with Xiao Nani, Jiang Changbai, and Jiang Songbai greeting them. Originally, many were indifferent to the Jiang family, knowing that Jiang Hong had relinquished his military power. However, seeing Xiao Nanya's closeness to the Jiang family now changed many of their opinions. When Jiang Peihuan appeared, Xiao Nani immediately approached her. Yu Er stepped back 2 steps upon seeing Xiao Nani approaching. Subsequently, Xiao Nani reached out to hold Jiang Peihuan's hand. When Jiang Yin came out, hand in hand with her maid, she saw this scene. Seeing the undisguised tenderness in the man's eyes, Jiang Yan's gaze grew complicated. Princess Qing, please take your seat. While unsure of Jiang Yan's purpose for coming, guests are still guests, so Shui Yin arranged for her to take a seat at the top. Once the old madam sat down, dishes began to be served. Old Madame Jiang, may your happiness be as vast as the East Sea, and may your life be as long-lasting as the South Mountain. Everyone raised their wine glasses to toast old Madame Jiang. Old Madame Jiang's eyes were filled with joy. I apologize for the inadequate hospitality today. Enjoy the meal. The dishes of the general mansion are truly unparalleled. Everyone laughed and chatted with old Madame Jiang. At that moment, Jiang Yin also began to speak with a smile. Tasting the food from the Jiang mansion, it truly is. Before Jiang Yin could finish her sentence, she felt a sudden sharp pain in her abdomen. She immediately clutched her stomach. Princess Qing, what's wrong? Seeing this, Jiang Yan's maid hurried forward, and the faces of the Jiang family changed. Jiang Peihuan frowned. At that moment, Jiang Peihuan's first thought was that Jiang Yin was trying to frame them, but she dismissed that idea, thinking Jiang Yin wouldn't joke with the child of the Qiming emperor. Summon the doctor, Shui Yin immediately ordered. But it was too late. Seeing the maid trying to help Jiang Yin, Jiang Peihuan urgently said, "Don't touch her." Soon, Jiang Yin's dress was stained red. By the time the doctor arrived, he declared that Jiang Yin had miscarried. Hearing this news, a heavy mood overcame the Jiang mansion. Jiang Yin was also stunned. "Quickly inform His Highness." Jiang Yan's maid spoke urgently. Upon receiving the news, Xiao Juanhao immediately rushed to the Jiang mansion. Entering the courtyard, Xiao Junhao's eyes first landed on Jiang Peihuan. Perhaps it was because of her pregnancy, but he felt she looked even more beautiful. "Your Highness, the princess has miscarried." Hearing the maid's voice, Xiao Juanhao snapped back to the present, approaching Jiang Yin. Seeing her blood-stained dress, he frowned. "What happened?" "Your Highness, the princess specifically came to congratulate old Madame Jiang on her birthday. However, after just a few bites, the princess miscarried." "What nonsense are you talking about? Are you implying that my Jiang family caused her miscarriage?" Chapter 336. The truth. Upon hearing the maid's words, Jiang Xijin said with eyes full of anger. However, at this moment, no one responded to Jiang Xijin. After all, the incident with Jiang Yin occurred in the Jiang mansion, and even if Xiao Juanhao was no longer favored, he was still a prince. There was no need to fawn over him, but it was also unnecessary to offend him. In the midst of silence, Xiao Juanhao spoke. "Regardless, the princess had her incident at the Jiang mansion's banquet. She is the first of the emperor's grandchildren. Let's leave the matter for the emperor to decide." Upon hearing this, the faces of the Jiang family members showed displeasure, but they couldn't refute. After all, it concerned the imperial heir. Informing Emperor Qiming was only natural. However, when Jiang Yin was being helped up by her maid, Jiang Peihuan softly interrupted. "Wait." Hearing Jiang Peihuan's voice, everyone turned their attention to her. In front of everyone, Jiang Peihuan addressed Jiang Yin. "Princess Qing, may first check your pulse?" Although she posed it as a question, Jiang Peihuan approached Jiang Yin. Before Jiang Yin could react, Jiang Peihuan had already grasped her wrist. The maid beside Jiang Yin, seeing this, stepped forward. "Queen Sheng, my mistress is unwell. You." Before the maid could finish, she was knocked to the ground with a kick. The one who acted was Xiao Nani. Xiao Nani walked to Jiang Peihuan's side and coldly stared at the talking maid. "Who do you think you are? Is it your turn to speak here?" The maid fell, coughing up blood. She wanted to say something upon seeing Jiang Peihuan checking Jiang Yan's pulse, but upon seeing Xiao Nani's cold demeanor, she dared not utter a word. Jiang Peihuan checked Jiang Yan's pulse meticulously. After a moment, she released Jiang Yan's hand. Subsequently, she approached old Madame Jiang and Jiang Hong. "Father, please stay with grandmother. They'll handle this matter." "All right. If there's anything, just send someone to inform me at home." "Understood." After speaking to Jiang Hong, Jiang Peihuan gave Yi Xiao a glance. The latter immediately approached. Jiang Peihuan whispered a few words into Yi Xiao's ear. Whatever Jiang Peihuan said, Yi Xiao nodded gravely. "My queen, rest assured, they'll have it thoroughly investigated." After everything was arranged, Jiang Peihuan finally said to Xiao Juanhao, "Let's go." Having said that, she didn't spare Xiao Juanhao another glance. Upon her rebirth, Jiang Peihuan wished nothing more than to end Xiao Junhao's life with a single stroke. However, at some point, it seemed she gradually let go of that idea. Now, she seemed more annoyed with Xiao Juanhao and didn't want to see him as long as he didn't provoke her. Seeing her indifferent expression, Xiao Juanhao frowned. To him, Jiang Peihuan's gaze felt like she was looking at a stranger. Realizing that he was nothing more than a stranger to Jiang Peihuan made Xiao Junhao's heart heavy. He would rather see hatred in her eyes than such indifference. Xiao Nani accompanied Jiang Peihuan to the palace. Emperor Qiming had already received the news. Knowing that the child in Jiang Yan's womb was gone, his eyes were filled with rage. He stared at the newcomers and demanded, "What happened? How could there be a miscarriage all of a sudden?" While Emperor Qiming didn't care much for Jiang Yan, he was very concerned about the child in her womb. Imperial father, Yin Er heard of old Madame Jiang's significant birthday celebration and specifically went to offer blessings. But who would have thought that such an incident would occur during the banquet at the Jiang mansion? Imperial father, you must seek justice for your son. Hearing Emperor Qiming's voice, Xiao Junhao spoke first. By the end of his statement, Xiao Junhao's eyes were filled with intense fury. Seeing this, Xiao Nani sneered from the side. Everyone heard Xiao Nanya's laughter, and Emperor Qiming glared at him with irritation. Emperor Qiming didn't look at Xiao Nani but directly turned to Jiang Peihuan. Queen Cheng, what do you have to say about this? Imperial brother, as far as I know, the Jiang family neither sent an invitation to the Qing mansion nor specifically invited the Princess Qing. She appeared at the old madam's birthday banquet without an invitation, causing such a scene. It's made me wonder if the Princess Qing did this on purpose. Before Jiang Peihuan could speak, Xiao Nani interjected. Hearing Xiao Nani, Xiao Junhao's expression turned even more unsightly. Imperial uncle, your words are too malicious. How could the princess consort endanger her unborn child? She knew she was pregnant, so why didn't she stay at home? Why run around? Xiao Nani, with a cold look, interrupted Xiao Junhao before he could finish. Emperor Qiming's eyes darkened further with anger at their bickering. He glared at both of them and said in a low voice, "Enough, both of you, be silent." Seeing Emperor Qiming's anger, Xiao Junhao promptly shut his mouth, but Xiao Nani continued, "Imperial brother, in my opinion, the Princess Qing simply lacks blessings. This would have been your first? You shut up too." The emperor snapped at Xiao Nani. Xiao Nani finally closed his mouth. After shooting Xiao Nani a fierce glare, Emperor Qiming turned to Jiang Peihuan. "Regardless, this happened at the Jiang mansion. What do you say?" "Please wait a moment, Your Majesty." Emperor Qiming looked puzzled at Jiang Peihuan's words. After a short while, the chief doctor of the Imperial Medical Institution entered the hall. Only then did Jiang Peihuan address the emperor. "Your Majesty, one had already examined the Princess Qing during the banquet. The reason for her miscarriage is the consumption of oleander powder." But there was no trace of oleander powder at the Jiang family's banquet. After one entered the palace, one had the chief doctor check the banquet. "If Your Majesty doubts my words, you can listen to the chief doctor." Hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, surprise flashed in Emperor Qiming's eyes. He turned to the chief doctor and asked, "Tell me, what happened?" "Your Majesty, as Queen Qing stated, Princess Qing indeed consumed oleander powder. When one checked all the dishes the Princess Qing had eaten at the Jiang mansion, none contained oleander. Moreover, one examined all utensils from the banquet and found no issues." Chapter 337. Reprimand. So, the princess consort intentionally went to the general's mansion, trying to frame someone? As soon as the chief doctor finished speaking, Xiao Junhao immediately responded. Hearing this, Xiao Junhao quickly knelt before Emperor Qiming. "Imperial father, there's absolutely no truth to this. Enough." Before Xiao Junhao could say anything further, Emperor Qiming rebuked with a cold glare. "You couldn't even protect a child. Indeed, it seems you lack fortune. Enough, go back. Before a child is born, do not inform me, so as to avoid false hopes. It's all my fault. I beg your forgiveness, Imperial father." "All right, go now." At this moment, as Emperor Qiming looked at Xiao Junhao kneeling before him, he felt a sense of annoyance. And Xiao Junhao, sensing the emperor's displeasure, tightly clenched his fists. However, he still respectfully paid his respects before leaving. After Xiao Junhao left, Xiao Nani spoke to Emperor Qiming. "Imperial brother, if there's nothing else, We'll be on our way. With that, Xiaonani, holding on to Jiang Paihuan's hand, began to walk out. However, as they approached the main hall's entrance, Emperor Qi Ming's voice echoed, "Stop." Upon hearing this, both Xiaonani and Jiang Peihuan halted. "Does Imperial Brother need something?" Xiaonani turned around to face Emperor Qi Ming and casually inquired. Seeing his demeanor, Emperor Qi Ming remarked with annoyance, "How much longer do you plan to stay at the Jiang Mansion? Do you intend to be their son-in-law? If you approve, Imperial Brother, I would be more than happy. You, just be silent. Fine, just go. If there's nothing, do not appear before me again. Let's go, Huan Heir." Hearing Emperor Qi Ming's words, Xiaonani, without even offering a courtesy, pulled Jiang Peihuan to leave. She, on the other hand, gave a respectful nod before following him out. After exiting the Qinqing Palace, the couple didn't immediately leave the Imperial Palace but headed to the Running Palace. In the past few days, Jiang Peihuan had regularly visited the Empress for medical examinations, so the people in Running Palace had grown accustomed to her visits. Seeing the couple enter, the Empress maid greeted them with a smile. "Queen and Ring Cheng have arrived. Please sit down. They'll prepare the milk that the Queen likes. There's no need to trouble yourself, Nanny. We'll just check on the Empress and then we'll be on our way. It's no bother at all. Please have a seat, Queen Cheng." Seeing this, Jiang Peihuan chose not to decline. Although the Empress was pregnant, she still had to manage palace affairs. After Jiang Peihuan had a drink, she saw the Empress, supported by a maid, enter the room. As Jiang Peihuan was about to bow, she heard the Empress' voice. "It said that you were pregnant now. No need for formalities." After Jiang Peihuan sat down, the Empress asked, "I heard that Princess Qing had a miscarriage at the Jiang Mansion. What happened?" "I'm not entirely sure about the details." After briefly explaining the circumstances of Jiang Yan's miscarriage, Jiang Peihuan spoke softly. Hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, the Empress frowned. "This Princess Qing, she's two." The Empress wanted to say useless, but recalling her past experiences, she chose not to. "Your Royal Majesty, allow me to check your pulse." At this point, Jiang Peihuan softly spoke. The Empress didn't say anything more and offered her hand to Jiang Peihuan. Though she checked the Empress' pulse daily, Jiang Peihuan was always meticulous with each examination. Upon gripping the Empress' pulse, Jiang Peihuan frowned. Afterwards, she took a careful sniff. "Huan Heir, is there something wrong with the child in my womb?" Seeing Jiang Peihuan's frown, the Empress grew anxious. Jiang Peihuan sniffed again, then softly said, "Your Royal Majesty, I detect a faint scent of sandalwood on you. Have you been paying respects to Buddha recently?" What's more significant is that within the sandalwood aroma, there was a faint scent of musk. Though subtle, Jiang Peihuan noticed it. "I haven't been worshipping. Regarding your sandalwood scent, I visited the great Empress Dowager this morning to greet her. One must have acquired the fragrance from her chamber." Realizing something, the Empress stopped speaking abruptly. The Empress didn't say anything more but gave a look to her maid. "All of you leave." Seeing the Empress' expression, the nanny quickly gave the order to the surrounding attendants. Once all the maids and eunuchs had left, the Empress, with a grave expression, turned to Jiang Peihuan. "Huan Heir, is there something wrong with this scent? This sandalwood has a hint of musk." "How could that be?" Jiang Peihuan's voice was soft, but it clearly reached the Empress' ears. Upon hearing her words, the Empress' face turned pale. By her side, Xiaonani, upon hearing the conversation, also showed an uneasy look. The Empress was full of confusion, but, being the queen, she couldn't accuse the great Empress Dowager of wrongdoing. She looked anxiously at Jiang Peihuan and asked, "Huan Heir, will this affect the child in my womb? As you weren't there long, the effect is minimal. However, if you frequently visit and are exposed to it for extended periods, it could harm the child." The Empress turned even paler upon hearing this. After a long silence, the Empress said to Jiang Peihuan, "Reap this matter to yourself to avoid trouble." Upon hearing the Empress' words, Jiang Peihuan paused for a moment before replying softly, "Your Royal Majesty, don't worry. 111 protect both you and the child in your womb." They'll return home now and come back tomorrow to check on you. Take care on your journey. Nani, take good care of Huan Er. Don't worry, imperial sister-in-law. Xiao Nani nodded at the Empress and left Running Palace with Jiang Peihuan. Once outside the palace gate, Jiang Peihuan asked the man beside her, "Why would the great Empress Dowager harm the Empress? She's not targeting the Empress. It's you." Me. Hearing Xiao Nanye's words, confusion appeared in Jiang Peihuan's eyes. A moment later, a cold smile curled her lips. The great Empress Dowager really went to great lengths. Indeed, the entire palace knew she visited daily to check on the Empress. If something happened to the Empress child, even if she did her best, the Empress might still resent her. The Emperor, who was already somewhat dissatisfied with her, would likely blame her and possibly her entire Jiang family if something happened to the child. Realizing the implications, Jiang Peihuan suddenly regretted her decision. She shouldn't have agreed to check on the Empress due to a momentary soft-heartedness. Chapter 338. Calling for help. Seeing Jiang Peihuan's face change constantly, Xiao Nani immediately reached out to protect the person beside him. With a gentle pat on Jiang Peihuan's back, Xiao Nani whispered, "Huan Er, it's all because of me that you face so many intrigues." There was a hint of guilt in his voice. Hearing this, Jiang Peihuan found solace, leaning into his embrace. She softly replied, "Xiao Nani, from the moment one agreed to marry you, we became one." "I know." After a long silence, Jiang Peihuan heard his voice again. For a while, neither spoke. The carriage proceeded in the direction of the general's mansion. As they approached the general's mansion, Jiang Peihuan suddenly recalled what Emperor Qiming had said. She whispered to the man beside her, "Shall we return to the Qing's mansion tomorrow?" Upon hearing her words, Xiao Nani paused for a moment. After a few seconds, he smiled and replied, "Let's discuss it later. I'd like to stay at the general's mansion a bit longer." Just as Jiang Peihuan was about to reply, a crying voice reached her ears. The cry was piercing, yet somewhat familiar. "Who is that?" Pulling aside the curtain, Jiang Peihuan saw a maid crying out for help at the entrance of the general's mansion. Seeing this scene, she frowned, because many passers-by were now staring at them. "My queen, that's the maid of Miss Cousin." It took Jiang Peihuan a while to realize that the Miss Cousin referred to by the gatekeeper was Xueru. At that moment, Xueru's maid spotted Jiang Peihuan stepping down from the carriage. The maid rushed over, trying to grab Jiang Peihuan's sleeve, but was stopped by Xiao Nani. "Why aren't you serving your mistress at the Prince Qing mansion? Why are you here?" Jiang Peihuan asked in a low voice. "Miss Jiang, please save my young mistress." What happened to your mistress?" Before the maid could finish, Jiang Peihuan interrupted her. Hearing Jiang Peihuan's inquiry, the maid hastily replied, "The people in the mansion say the princess consort miscarried due to poison given by my mistress. They found poison in her room. The prince wants to punish her severely. Miss asked me to beg you for help. Please save her." From the maid's account, Jiang Peihuan understood the situation. However, Jiang Peihuan remained silent, then turned towards the gatekeeper, calmly saying, "Inform mother about this."
Yes.
Although Jiang Peihuan didn't want to involve herself with Xueru's matters, she still felt obligated as Xueru was part of the Xue family. Thus, she sent someone to notify Xue Yin. Xue Yin arrived swiftly, but upon seeing the kneeling maid, she simply stated, "Go back and tell your mistress that her matters have nothing to do with the Xue family or me anymore. Whether she lives or dies, it's her concern." "Madam, she's still your niece. How can you be so heartless?" "Shut up." Hearing a mere maid accusing her mother, Jiang Peihuan's eyes flashed with cold anger. Yet, Xue Yin seemed completely unfazed. Without even glancing at the maid, Xue Yin looked towards Jiang Peihuan and Xiao Nani with a smile. "Huan Er, you're now pregnant. Don't stand at the door for too long. Come in with King Cheng."
Yes.
Hearing Xue Yin's words, Jiang Peihuan nodded. Xiao Nani took Jiang Peihuan's hand directly, and the two walked in. However, as they passed by the maid, Xiao Nani looked straight at Han Feng. Send this maid to the Prince Qing's mansion and relay the response from Madame Shui to Xiao Juanhao.
Yes.
Upon hearing Xiao Nanyes's words, Han Feng immediately grabbed the maid. At the Prince Qing's mansion, Shui Ru was pinned to a wooden stool by servants, her body beaten and bruised. Xiao Juanhao sat nearby, watching indifferently. Lin Mingyao sat beside Xiao Juanhao. Witnessing the scene, her eyes revealed complex emotions. At that moment, footsteps echoed. Hearing the sound, Shui Ru, who had shown no reaction thus far, looked up with hope. Seeing Han Feng leading her maid in, Shui Ru's eyes filled with surprise. But the words of Han Feng caused her delight to vanish instantly. Prince Qing, my master instructed me to relay that from now on, any matters concerning secondary consort Shui have nothing to do with the Shui family or the general's mansion. Having said this, Han Feng left without giving Xiao Juanhao a second glance. Xiao Juanhao watched Han Feng's retreating figure with a dark expression. Shui Ru, lying on the stool, glared with hatred in her eyes. You heard it. The general mansion doesn't care about your life or death at all. Only then did Xiao Juanhao look at Shui Ru. Upon hearing Xiao Juanhao, Shui Ru quickly spoke, Your Highness, this matter has nothing to do with me. The child in the princess' womb wasn't harmed by me. It wasn't. Do it. Before Shui Ru could finish her words, Xiao Juanhao interrupted. At the fall of Xiao Junhao's command, a soldier nearby raised his hand, ready to strike. Seeing this, Shui Ru shivered with fear. She pleaded continuously, Your Highness, please spare me. Regardless of her cries, Xiao Juanhao remained emotionless. He had initially been with Shui Ru due to the connection between the Shui and Jiang families. He hadn't expected the Shui family to be indifferent to her fate. His gaze upon Shui Ru was not only devoid of warmth, but also held a trace of hatred, as if he were looking at garbage. Shui Ru wanted to speak again, but couldn't utter a word upon seeing Xiao Junhao's cold eyes. She regretted marrying this man, but her regrets were in vain. Realizing this, she laughed, though tears streamed from her eyes. Hearing her laughter, both Xiao Juanhao and Lin Mingyao appeared puzzled, but neither spoke. But as Shui Ru closed her eyes, a soft voice called out, Stop! It was Jiang Yin. Jiang Yin approached with the maid and greeted Xiao Juanhao. Greetings, Your Highness. Greetings, Princess Consort. Seeing Jiang Yin, Lin Mingyao also stood and greeted her. Why are you here? Xiao Juanhao asked indifferently. Seemingly oblivious to his coldness, Jiang Yin spoke, Your Highness, please spare secondary consort Shui. Before anyone else could speak, Jiang Yin continued, After all, secondary consort Shui is a daughter of the Shui family. Even if they don't acknowledge her, killing her would be frowned upon. If the emperor hears of this, it might not reflect well on you. Chapter 339. Hatred. Then what does princess consort mean? Upon hearing Jiang Yan's words, Xiao Juanhao spoke faintly. Meeting Xiao Junhao's gaze, Jiang Yan whispered, My intention is, let's put this matter to rest. Secondary consort Shui has already learned her lesson. Facing Xiao Junhao's look, Jiang Yan remained unyielding. After a long while, Xiao Juanhao finally said to Jiang Yan, Since the princess consort pleads, then let this matter end here. Having said that, Xiao Juanhao immediately stood up and left without glancing at anyone. As Xiao Juanhao left, Lin Mingyao also stood up. After bowing to Jiang Yan, she softly said, One will take my leave now. Upon finishing her words, Lin Mingyao was about to leave when Jiang Yan's voice came from behind. Wait a moment. Hearing Jiang Yan's voice, Lin Mingyao stopped in her tracks and turned her head to look at Jiang Yan. Is there anything else the princess consort requires? It seems you've never taken my words to heart. A hint of a smile curled up at the corner of Jiang Yan's mouth, but it was devoid of warmth, and her eyes were equally cold. Facing Jiang Yan's expression, Lin Mingyao was momentarily stunned, then whispered, I don't understand what you are implying. Heh. Hearing this, Jiang Yan chuckled lightly, her smile dripping with sarcasm. A moment later, Jiang Yan coldly said, If you don't know, then forget it. Leave. After bowing to Jiang Yin, Lin Mingyao left immediately. Watching her retreating figure, Jiang Yan's eyes were filled with gloom. Only when Lin Mingyao's silhouette disappeared around the corner did Jiang Yin look at Xueru, who was sitting on the chair. Xueru was on the verge of fainting, but upon seeing Jiang Yin approaching, she anxiously said, "Princess consort, I did not harm the child in your womb. This has nothing to do with me, I know." Jiang Yin interrupted her without waiting for Xueru to finish. A couple of seconds later, Xueru looked at Jiang Yin in disbelief. "You knew?" Facing Xueru's incredulous look, Jiang Yin said sarcastically, "Otherwise, why do you think one would save you?" Hearing Jiang Yan's words, Xueru fell silent for a long time before whispering, "If it wasn't me, then who harmed the child in your womb? There are only 3 of us in the Qing mansion. Naturally, I wouldn't harm my own child, and it's not you either. Who else do you think it could be?" Jiang Yan's eyes were filled with undisguised gloom as she spoke the last sentence. Although Xueru wasn't very clever, she wasn't dumb either. Upon hearing Jiang Yan's words, she blurted out, "It's Lin Mingyao." Xueru spoke with certainty. Jiang Yin remained silent upon hearing this. But silence was the best answer. Seeing Jiang Yan's silence, Xueru's eyes were filled with resentment. She coldly said to Jiang Yin, "Since you knows that the person who killed the child in your womb is Lin Mingyao, why didn't you tell the prince? Even if I told him, what would it change? Do you have evidence? Even if the prince knew, would he punish her?" Before Xueru could say anything, Jiang Yin interrupted. Hearing this, Xueru's already upset expression darkened even further. After a long while, she looked at Jiang Yin and said, "What does you want me to do? I don't believe that you would save me without reason. Even if the enemy of an enemy is a friend, it's still based on beneficial value. So, what does the princess consort want from me? It seems that after this incident, you've become much smarter." Upon hearing Jiang Yan's words, Xueru remained silent. If she once had a glimmer of hope when she first married into the Qing mansion, then after these events, she had no expectations of Xiao Juanhao anymore. At this moment, Xueru finally realized one thing. Xiao Juanhao truly didn't love her. But even so, she no longer had any way out. Seeing Xueru's silence, Jiang Yin spoke softly, "You're right. One did save you for my own selfish reasons." After saying that, Jiang Yin bent down and whispered a few words into Xueru's ear. Xueru's eyes were full of surprise at what Jiang Yin told her, but then they filled with delight. She looked at Jiang Yin, her eyes filled with hatred, and said, "Don't worry, even if you hadn't mentioned it, I wouldn't have spared them. You should focus on recovering from your injuries first. We can discuss these matters after you've healed. Send secondary consort Xue back to recuperate. Anything she needs can be taken from my quarters." "Thank you, Your Highness." Upon hearing Jiang Yan's words, Xueru quickly expressed her gratitude. As for the events occurring in the Prince Qing mansion, Zhang Peihuan was completely unaware. Initially, Zhang Peihuan had planned to return to the Qing mansion, but Xiao Nani insisted on staying at the general's mansion. Seeing this, Zhang Peihuan didn't say anything more. The Zhang family, on the other hand, was quite pleased. Without realizing, 3 months had passed since Zhang Peihuan had been pregnant. In the plum garden, Zhang Peihuan was playing chess with Xiao Nani when they saw Lu Er rush in, looking annoyed. Seeing her demeanor, Zhang Peihuan raised an eyebrow. "What happened? Who upset you this time?" "It's that young lady from the Xue family." Xueru. Ever since Xueru's maid came to the general's mansion for help, Zhang Peihuan hadn't heard from Xueru for a long time. Suddenly hearing Lu Er mention her, Zhang Peihuan was momentarily caught off guard. "What happened to her?" "She came to our mansion and stood at the gate, crying. From her appearance, those in the know understood she owed us, but others might think we did something wrong to her." The more Lu Er spoke, the angrier she looked. Upon hearing this, Zhang Peihuan couldn't help but frown. She didn't like Xueru, but she knew her personality. Xueru was vain and cared a lot about her reputation. Making a public scene like this was unlike her. "Where is my mother? Has someone informed her about this?" The eldest young master said not to bother the madam with such trivial matters. Just as she was about to speak, she saw Yu Er approaching. Just as he was about to speak, he saw Yu Er walking over. "Greetings, Your Highness. Greetings, my queen. Get up." After Yu Er paid her respects to Jiang Peihuan and Xiao Nani, she turned to Jiang Peihuan and said, "My queen, the madam wishes to see you. Did my mother mention what it's about?" Upon hearing Yu Er's words, Jiang Peihuan put down her chess piece. "It seems to be about young Lady Shui." Chapter 340. Shui's gift. Did mother say why she wanted to see me? First, madam didn't specify. She just asked for you. I see. Nodding, Jiang Peihuan got up from her seat. Seeing this, Xiao Nani immediately stepped forward to support Jiang Peihuan's hand. Seeing the man's careful actions, a hint of amusement appeared in Jiang Peihuan's eyes. 3 months later, Jiang Peihuan's belly began to show signs of her pregnancy. While Jiang Peihuan herself didn't feel particularly burdened, Xiao Nani was constantly by her side, save for when the emperor summoned him. At first, everyone was astonished by this, but as time went on, everyone got used to it. "How do you feel today?" When Shui Yin saw Xiao Nani assisting Jiang Peihuan into the main hall, she immediately approached and whispered her inquiry. "Just like any other day." "No reactions," replied Jiang Peihuan. "That's good to hear." Upon hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Shui Yin let out a sigh of relief. A few days prior, Jiang Peihuan had bouts of morning sickness which worried everyone. Old Madame Jiang was particularly distressed, praying continuously for her well-being. After a few days of self-care, Jiang Peihuan no longer felt nauseous. Not only did she stop vomiting, but her appetite had also greatly improved, much to everyone's relief. "Your Highness, you've worked hard taking care of Huan Er during this period," said Shui Yin as she turned her attention to Xiao Nani. After taking a seat next to Jiang Peihuan, Xiao Nani replied with a smile, "The child in Huan Er's womb is my flesh and blood. I can't bear the pains of pregnancy for her, so the least one can do is take good care of her. It's my duty." Hearing this, Shui Yan's smile deepened. "Aunt." At that moment, Shui Ru entered, leaning on her maid's arm for support. Hearing Shui Ru's voice, the smile on Shui Yan's face disappeared instantly. "Huan Er, King Cheng." Shui Ru walked up to Jiang Peihuan and Xiao Nani and bowed respectfully. Seeing this, Jiang Peihuan's eyes were filled with confusion. Then, a cold glint appeared in her eyes. "What brings the secondary consort Shui to our mansion today?" Turning her gaze to Shui Ru, Shui Yin asked directly. "Aunt, must you treat me so distantly?" With that, Shui Ru immediately knelt before Shui Yin. Watching this, Shui Yin's face displayed confusion. "What are you doing?" "Help the secondary consort Shui up," Shui Yin commanded the maid. But Shui Ru pushed her maid away, then looked at Shui Yin with tearful eyes. "Aunt, everything that happened before was my fault. One was deluded into wanting to marry Prince Qing. It was all my mistake. I've realized my mistakes, and I came here today to sincerely apologize to you, Aunt. As long as you forgive me, you can punish me in any way you see fit, and one won't complain." Hearing Shui Ru's words, Shui Yan's eyes reflected a mix of confusion and uncertainty. Seeing Shui Ru's tearful regret, Shui Yan's expression grew more complex. After a moment of silence, she finally said to Shui Ru, "If you knew you'd feel this way now, why did you make that choice in the first place? Even if you regret it now, it's too late. I know one can't make up for my mistakes, but Auntie, Ru Er only has you as her kin in this capital. Grandmother and the rest won't forgive me. Auntie, one beg you, please forgive Ru Er. Let me have a place to go in the capital. You should know, even if you regret certain things, they can't be undone." Shui Yin remained unmoved by Shui Ru's pleas. She hadn't forgotten how Shui Ru had placed that letter in Jiang Hong's study. Seeing that Shui Yin was unyielding, a hint of coldness flashed in Shui Ru's eyes. But when she looked up at Shui Yin, her face was filled with guilt. "I know I wronged you, Auntie. If that's the case, 111 atone with my death." Saying this, Shui Ru dashed towards a nearby pillar. "Yi Xiao." As Jiang Peihuan saw Shui Ru's actions, she spoke softly. Yi Xiao, standing behind Jiang Peihuan, immediately stepped forward upon hearing her. Even though Yi Xiao acted quickly, Shui Ru's head still hit the pillar, bleeding profusely in an instant. Witnessing this, Zhang Paihuan's eyes flickered. Go get the doctor. Seeing the injury on Shui Ru's head, Shui Yin urgently called out. As the maid went to fetch the doctor, Shui Yin frowned at Shui Ru. What are you doing? Auntie, one truly know my wrongs. Please forgive me. Otherwise, I truly have no other way but death. What do you mean by that? Shui Yin was known to be compassionate and not harsh. If Shui Ru continued her self-harming acts, Shui Yin wouldn't care. But now, hearing Shui Ru's sincere apologies, Shui Yin couldn't help but ask. The prince found oleander powder at my residence. He claimed I killed the child in the prince's consort womb. He almost had me beaten to death. After briefly explaining the events at the Prince Qing mansion, Shui Ru continued, Auntie, please allow me to come and go in the general's mansion. Give Ru'er a chance to live. Hearing this, Shui Yin's brow furrowed. In the end, Shui Yin spoke softly. In the future, if you wish to visit, come to my Yinlin for a while. Thank you, Aunt. Upon hearing Shui Yin's concession, Shui Ru's eyes were filled with elation. That's enough. Have someone tend to your wound. Yes, I'll listen to Aunt. Shui Ru stood up, respectfully bowed to Shui Yin, but as she turned to leave the main hall, her respectful demeanor vanished, replaced by a dark look. After Shui Ru left, Shui Yin looked at Zhang Peihuan, with a hint of guilt in her eyes. Huan air about this, mother. You don't need to say more, I understand. Before Shui Yin could finish, Zhang Peihuan gently interrupted. As for Shui Ru, Zhang Peihuan had already treated her as a stranger. For Shui Yin's sake, Zhang Peihuan wouldn't do anything to Shui Ru, but that's where it ended. After a brief conversation with Shui Yin, Zhang Peihuan left Yinlin. As she left Yinlin, Zhang Peihuan immediately said to Yi Xiao, whenever Shui Ru comes to the general's mansion, keep a close eye on her.
Yes.
Huan air, you don't need to worry about her. If you're concerned she'll cause more trouble, we'll just have Han Feng kill her. Xiao Nani, who was nearby, spoke upon seeing Zhang Paihuan's furrowed brow. Hearing his words, a hint of helplessness appeared in Zhang Paihuan's eyes. If we simply kill her like that, wouldn't it cause more trouble? Chapter 341. Nightmare. I don't care about Shui Ru, but I can't ignore my mother's feelings. All right, as you wish. Let's not bother with irrelevant people. Zhang Peihuan did not want to see Shui Yin sad, so she tried to ignore Shui Ru's existence. However, the events that followed made her deeply regret not taking Xiao Nanya's advice and getting rid of Shui Ru directly. Shui Yin allowed Shui Ru to come to the general's mansion and spend some time in Yinlin. But after that, Shui Ru came every day. Yet, she would just sit for a while and then leave, doing nothing. Although the people of the general's mansion were annoyed by her, they said nothing. After a while, Shui Ru began to visit Zhang Peihuan's plum garden. Today, she came again. Zhang Peihuan had just woken up when she heard her servant Yu'er announce, Your Highness, the young lady from the Shui family has come again. Tell her I haven't woken up yet and send her away. In front of Shui Yin, Zhang Peihuan felt constrained, but when alone, she really didn't want to deal with Shui Ru.
Yes.
Hearing Zhang Peihuan's instructions, Yu'er went out. As Lu'er attended to her, Zhang Peihuan began to have her meal. Lately, she often woke up late in the morning. Where is Nani? Zhang Peihuan had gotten used to Xiao Nani being around her every day. Waking up and not seeing his familiar figure, she felt a bit uneasy. Handing the utensils to Zhang Peihuan, Lu'er whispered, Someone from the palace came, saying the emperor has summoned his highness, my queen. As Lu'er finished speaking, Yu'er walked in. Seeing what she was holding, Zhang Peihuan looked puzzled. What is this? This is a gift from the young lady for the young prince in your belly. As she spoke, Yu'er placed the items on the table. Zhang Peihuan glanced and saw baby clothes and collars. Call Yi Xiao over. My queen, you called for me? Just as Zhang Peihuan finished speaking, Yi Xiao entered. Seeing her, Zhang Peihuan pointed at the items on the table. Check these.
Yes.
Yi Xiao carefully inspected everything and finally reported, Your Highness, there's nothing wrong with these items. Although Xueru had been sincere lately, Jiang Peihuan still didn't trust that someone like her could truly change. But now, hearing Yi Xiao's words, she felt even more puzzled. Not understanding, she decided not to ponder it further. She instructed Yu Er, "Put these things in the storeroom."
Yes.
In the following days, Xueru frequently visited the plum garden looking for Jiang Peihuan. But Jiang Peihuan never met her. Xueru didn't seem to mind and would bring gifts every time, all of them children's items. After Yi Xiao inspected them several times and found nothing amiss, Lu Er sent them straight to the storeroom. Yes. In the next few days, Xueru often came to the plum garden to look for Jin Peihuan. However, Jin Peihuan had never seen Xueru once. The latter did not mind. Every time she came, she would prepare some gifts, which were all children's tools. After Yi Xiao checked it a few times, and there was no problem with the items, Lu Er directly sent the items to the storeroom. At night, plum garden. Jiang Peihuan on the bed had her brows furrowed, sweat covering her forehead. Jiang Peihuan, your father is dead. Your Jiang family has been annihilated, and your two younger sisters have been given to the soldiers. As for you, in her dream, Jiang Peihuan was back in her previous life. She witnessed the devastation of the Jiang family, saw Jiang Songbai die tragically, saw Jiang Xijin die horribly, and finally, she saw Lu Xiu, who wasn't skilled in martial arts, raising a long sword. Seeing this scene, Jiang Peihuan couldn't hold back any longer and screamed, "No, Huan Er!" Familiar voices kept calling out to her. Jiang Peihuan opened her eyes. Upon opening her eyes, she saw Xiaonani looking at her with deep concern. The man, seeing Jiang Peihuan drenched in sweat, anxiously asked, "Huan Er, what happened? Did you have a nightmare? Was it a dream?" But the images felt incredibly real. Jiang Peihuan tried to speak, but her throat felt dry. "Don't speak, I'll get water." Before she could respond, she heard the man's voice. Xiaonani got out of bed, went to the table, and quickly brought a cup of water to Jiang Peihuan's lips. With his assistance, Jiang Peihuan drank all the tea. After the drink, she felt much better. "I'm fine." Looking at Xiaonani, Jiang Peihuan whispered. Xiaonani touched her forehead, ensuring she was of normal temperature, then he let go. "I'll get you some dry clothes." Jiang Peihuan, soaked in cold sweat, nodded in agreement. Moments later, she was dressed in clean garments. "Sleep now." After placing the damp clothes aside, Xiaonani held her gently, careful of her belly. Smelling the cool scent of the man, Jiang Peihuan quickly drifted off to sleep. However, about an hour later, she was startled awake again. The same dream, the same scene, the same outcome. When Jiang Peihuan woke up the second time, she felt drained of all her energy. Xiaonani woke up instantly when Jiang Peihuan started to struggle. Seeing her restless movements, he held her tight and softly called, "Huan Er." Jiang Peihuan slowly opened her eyes, but they were bloodshot. Seeing this, Xiaonani frowned. "Is someone there?" He softly called out to the door. "Your Highness." Xiaonani had barely spoken when Yi Xiao's voice came from outside. "Come in." Upon hearing the man's voice, Yi Xiao gently opened the door and stepped inside. She walked forward 2 steps, without looking at the people on the bed. "Your Highness, how may I first assist you?" "Check the pulse for the Queen. Is the Queen Sheng feeling unwell?" Concerned for Jiang Peihuan, Yi Xiao quickly approached the bed and began to examine her pulse. After a thorough check, she frowned. "How is she?" "Your Highness, there seems to be nothing wrong with the Queen's health. Then why is she constantly having nightmares?" Upon hearing this, surprise flashed in Yi Xiao's eyes. After a moment of silence, she whispered, "I cannot determine the reason." "Leave." Coldness flashed in Xiao Nanya's eyes. Seeing this, Jiang Peihuan grabbed his hand and whispered, "I'm fine. Maybe one just didn't sleep well. Yi Xiao, you may leave."
Yes.
Hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Yi Xiao bowed and left the room. That night, Jiang Peihuan didn't sleep. In another room of the Prince Qing mansion, Jiang Yin also stayed awake all night. "How is it?" Looking at the old man in the room, Jiang Yin whispered. Chapter 342. Encountering another broken thought, the old man tossed the talisman into the fire and stood up. He looked at Jiang Yin and said, "Your Highness, it worked." "Really?" Hearing the old man's words, Jiang Yan's eyes were filled with excitement. The old man nodded and said confidently, "Your Highness, rest assured. This curse is a secret technique from Jiangzhou. It will not fail." "What will happen to her?" The her Jiang Yin referred to was the cursed person. After a moment of silence, the old man said in a low voice, "At first, she will suffer continuous nightmares. After a few days, she will be exhausted. Within half a month, she will undoubtedly die. I leave this matter in your hands. If it succeeds, one will reward you generously. My life was saved by the prince. Now that he's gone, my life belongs to you, princess consort. I will serve you loyally." As Jiang Yin left the room, her eyes were filled with mixed emotions. She didn't want to harm Jiang Peihuan, but recalling the scene she had witnessed, she couldn't hold back, especially when she thought of the name Xiao Juanhao always whispered in her ear. She couldn't bear it any longer. The one she valued only had eyes for Jiang Peihuan, the one she valued most. The man she married also had only her in his heart. Therefore, she could no longer tolerate the presence of Jiang Peihuan. Jiang Peihuan, however, was completely unaware of these events in the Prince Qing mansion. The night before she went to sleep, Jiang Peihuan drank some calming medicine, but she still woke up in fear multiple times during the night. "It's okay, Huan Air." When Jiang Peihuan was startled awake for the third time, Xiaonani didn't sleep anymore. He held her tightly, waking her up whenever she began to struggle in his embrace. Everyone in the plum garden knew about Jiang Peihuan's recurring nightmares, but they felt helpless. By the time Shui Yin heard the news, 3 days had already passed. Shui Yin hurriedly entered the plum garden, followed by Lu Xiu. "Mother, third aunt, why are you here?" Jiang Peihuan, sitting on a couch, quickly stood up when she saw them. But Lu Xiu supported her. "It's all right. You're not feeling well. Don't exert yourself. Just rest. It's just a nightmare. There's no need to alarm you." Seeing the worried expressions in Shui Yin and Lu Xiu's eyes, Jiang Peihuan said with a smile, "Look at yourself. Your complexion is terrible." "Huan Huan." As Shui Yin spoke, Zhou Rongfang walked into the plum garden. Seeing her, Jiang Peihuan didn't get up but softly called out, "Second aunt." Ever since Zhou Rongfang took care of Jin, my son, she rarely left her yard. At first, taking care of Jin, my son, was the wish of the old madam, and Zhou Rongfang did so merely for appearances. But after some time, she grew genuinely fond of the child. So, seeing Zhou Rongfang in front of her now, Jiang Peihuan was genuinely surprised. Looking at Zhou Rongfang, Jiang Peihuan softly asked, "Second aunt, aren't you busy taking care of my younger brother? How do you have time to visit me? I heard you've been having nightmares these past few days. I couldn't sit still, so one came to see you." "I'm all right. Thank you for your concern, second aunt." Seeing the concern in Zhou Rongfang's eyes, Jiang Peihuan's demeanor softened a bit. At this point, Zhou Rongfang turned to Shui Yin and suggested, "Elder sister-in-law, why not take Huan Air to Kaiyuan Temple to pray and offer incense? To ask the Bodhisattva to bless Huan Air." Shui Yin had always avoided Zhou Rongfang, but hearing this, she nodded in rare agreement. What second sister-in-law suggests makes sense. It's a good idea. Considering elder sister-in-law has matters in the mansion to attend to, and second sister-in-law is busy taking care of the child, how about I accompany Huan Air to Kaiyuan Temple? Lu Xiu proposed this to Shui Yin. Upon hearing this, Shui Yin nodded. "Third sister-in-law, then I'll have to trouble you." "No need to trouble third aunt. I'll accompany Huan Air," said a voice at the entrance, and Xiaonani stepped in. Seeing him, surprise flashed in Jiang Peihuan's eyes. Walking to his side, she whispered, "Didn't you say the emperor had matters to discuss with you? How did you return so quickly?" "I was worried about you, so I came back." With that, Xiaonani addressed the 3 women present. "Mother, 2 aunts, I'll accompany Huan Air to Kaiyuan Temple. After lunch, we'll set off." After pondering Xiaonanya's suggestion, Shui Yin quietly agreed. "If you're going to offer incense, why not stay a night at Kaiyuan Temple? Xiao Nani nodded in response. Mother's suggestion is very good. Let's arrange it like that. After lunch, Xiao Nani and Jiang Peihuan boarded a carriage. Han Feng and Yi Xiao were riding alongside. The carriage headed straight for Kaiyuan Temple. Kaiyuan Temple always attracted many elite families, and Jiang Peihuan, not wishing to be jostled by the crowd, directed Han Feng towards the rear hill. Xiao Nani had no objections. But as the carriage reached the foot of the hill, Han Feng suddenly halted the horses. Then, he looked at the carriage and said in a low voice, "Master, Queen, there's someone." The moment Han Feng stopped, Yi Xiao drew his sword, and Xiao Nanya's expression darkened. Soon, sounds of fighting were heard. Lifting the curtain, Jiang Peihuan was startled by the scene. The man fighting with Han Feng was none other than Duan Yin, recognized by his severed hand. Duan Yin, unable to harness his special shrinking skills anymore, was no match for Han Feng. Quickly, Han Feng had Duan Yin pinned. As he poised to strike with his sword, Jiang Peihuan whispered, "Wait." At her voice, Han Feng redirected his blade. Jiang Peihuan looked at Duan Yin. If not for his severed hand, she would think him a beggar given his tattered clothes. After a moment, she calmly said, "Let him go." Han Feng looked to his master, Xiao Nani, for confirmation. Meeting Han Feng's gaze, Xiao Nani simply said, "Follow the queen's wishes." With that, Han Feng withdrew his sword. "Let's go." Jiang Peihuan lowered the curtain. However, just then, Duan Yin's voice pierced the silence. Reaching both Jiang Peihuan and Xiao Nani, "You have only 10 days left to live." Chapter 343. Curse Technique. What are you blabbering about? Just as Han Feng was about to withdraw his hand, upon hearing this, the long sword in his hand lunged forward again. However, Duan Yin seemed unbothered. "Did I say something wrong? She's been cursed. In 10 days, she will die." "You say Huan Air has been cursed?" At this moment, Xiao Nani immediately dismounted from the carriage. He approached Duan Yin. Looking at the man who had personally severed his own hands, Duan Yin's eyes were filled with hatred, but also a touch of fear. Upon hearing Xiao Nanya's question, Duan Yin continued, "If I'm not wrong, she's been having nightmares every night these days. In a few more days, her vitality will be completely drained, and she will die in her sleep. Is there a cure?" "Why should I tell?" Before Duan Yin could finish, Xiao Nani grabbed him by the throat. The force in the man's grip intensified. "I have little patience. You may have no hands, but you still have legs. I know you're not afraid of death, but there are many fates worse than death in this world. Would you like to try one?" After saying this, Xiao Nani released his grip. Duan Yin fell to the ground. He lifted his head, his eyes full of anger directed at Xiao Nani, but upon meeting the latter's emotionless gaze, the fury in Duan Yin's eyes vanished. He turned to Jiang Peihuan. "In gratitude for sparing my life, 111 save yours. Then, we'll be even. Han Feng, take him back to the mansion."
Yes.
The group didn't continue to Kaiyuan Temple, but went straight back to the general's mansion. Upon arriving at the plum garden, Xiao Nani looked at Duan Yin and said, "Speak. How can this curse be broken?" "The curse can be easily broken, but to undo the curse, there's a condition. You have to find the curse talisman." "Curse talisman?" "Of course, to enact the curse talisman must be placed near the cursed person. Find it." Upon hearing Duan Yin's words, Xiao Nani ordered Han Feng. Seeing this, Jiang Peihuan also spoke to Yi Xiao. "You and you heir, help them."
Yes.
Following Xiao Nani and Jian Peihuan's orders, the entire plum garden was in chaos. It was still afternoon, but by the time it was completely dark, Yi Xiao returned with some people to Jiang Peihuan and Xiao Nani. "Have you found it?" Yi Xiao brought out a package. Unfolding it, Jiang Peihuan saw a piece of baby clothing with a yellow talisman inside. "Is this it?" Jiang Peihuan said in a low voice to Duan Yin. Hearing her words, Duan Yin stepped forward, carefully examined the talisman in Yi Xiao's hand, then nodded. "Yes, this is the cursed talisman." Looking at the talisman in Yi Xiao's hand, a complex emotion flashed in Jiang Paihuan's eyes. If it were in the past, she wouldn't have believed in any curses, but having been resurrected, she now believed in everything. At this moment, Xiao Nani directly looked at Duan Yin and said, "Tell me, how can this curse be broken? Wait until tonight. When she goes to sleep, have someone stand by with this talisman. When she starts having nightmares, burn this cursed talisman, and the curse will be broken." Hearing Duan Yin's words, Xiao Nani couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. But seeing the item in Yi Xiao's hand, his expression instantly turned dark. Who sent this? Its secondary consort Shui. Hearing this, Xiao Nani immediately stood up. Seeing his reaction, Jiang Peihuan hurriedly reached out and held onto his sleeve. "Huan heir? Even now, you still want to protect her? She wants my life. Why would one protect her? But from what I know of Shui, she was probably used by someone else. So, let's discuss this after the curse is broken." Hearing her words, Xiao Nani sat back down. Then, Jiang Peihuan turned to Duan Yin. "After the curse is broken, what will happen to the one who cast the curse? This curse technique is a poison technique. It's either you die or they die. If the curse is not broken, you will die. But if it's broken, you will live and they will die." After everything was arranged, Duan Yin was taken away. That night, deep into the night, inside Jiang Peihuan's room. "It's okay. I'm here with you." Jiang Peihuan lay on the bed, with Xiao Nani sitting beside her. Hearing his voice, Jiang Peihuan nodded and whispered, "Don't worry, I'm fine." He didn't respond but took her hand instead. At first, Jiang Peihuan wasn't sleepy, but soon, the faint fragrance in the air lulled her into a deep sleep. Xiao Nani watched her intently, and when he saw her frown, he immediately turned to Duan Yin and the others. "Can we start?" Duan Yin glanced at the expression on Jiang Peihuan's face, then said to Han Feng, "Quickly, burn the talisman." Han Feng, holding the talisman in one hand and a fire starter in the other, ignited the talisman. Though it was just a piece of paper, it took a long time to burn completely. As the talisman burned, Jiang Peihuan's face contorted in pain. Xiao Nani quickly held her close. "Huan heir, I'm here." Perhaps hearing Xiao Nani's voice, Jiang Peihuan's struggles slowly ceased. As the curse on the talisman gradually disappeared, her expression calmed. When the talisman was entirely consumed, Jiang Peihuan's breathing became steady. Just as Xiao Nani was about to wake her up, Duan Yin stopped him. "Let her sleep." Hearing this, Xiao Nani retracted his hand and lay down beside Jiang Peihuan. The others in the room also left. In the Prince Qing's mansion, "Princess consort, there's a problem." Jiang Yin was groggily woken up by a maid. Seeing the maid rushing over, Jiang Yin's sleepiness vanished. "What happened?" "Princess consort, the wizard is dead." "What did you say?" Hearing the maid's words, Jiang Yan's eyes widened in shock. A moment later, Jiang Yan entered the room and was met with a gruesome sight. For the wizard lay on the ground, blood seeping from his 7 orifices. Chapter 344. Revenge, Princess Consort. Secondary consort Shui has arrived. The maidservant's voice roused Jiang Yan's thoughts. "Send her away. Tell her Princess consort?" Before Jiang Yan could finish, Shui Ru walked straight in. Seeing the scene before her, a touch of surprise appeared in Shui Ru's eyes. But after a few seconds of silence, her gaze turned displeased. "Did you fail? You failed, didn't you?" Jiang Yan remained silent, and her silence spoke volumes. Seeing Jiang Yan's silence, Shui Ru's already displeased expression darkened further. "You said it was foolproof. Why did it fail? Why? Do one more thing for me." Shui Ru glared furiously at Jiang Yan, but before she could complete her sentence, Jiang Yan grasped both her hands. Hearing Jiang Yan's words, Shui Ru seemed to forget what she wanted to say and subconsciously asked, "What do you want me to do?" "I need you to visit the general's mansion for me." Then, Jiang Yan whispered something into Shui Ru's ear. Whatever she said left Xueru somewhat puzzled, but she nodded in agreement. After a moment's thought, Xueru spoke, Princess Consort, although you saved me, I've also aided you. I'll help you one last time, and then we are even. All right. Hearing Xueru's words, Jiang Yin nodded without hesitation. General's mansion. The next morning, when Jiang Peihuan opened her eyes, she felt a bit dazed. Lately, every morning, she felt as if all her strength had been drained. It was the first time in days she felt energized. Just as Jiang Peihuan was about to sit up, she recognized a familiar voice. It was Xiao Nani. The man approached her bedside, took Jiang Peihuan's hand, and whispered, Huan Er, you're awake. How are you feeling? Any discomfort? Xiao Nanya's eyes were full of concern. Seeing his expression, Jiang Peihuan smiled and said, I'm fine. I don't feel unwell. Seeing that Jiang Peihuan looked spirited, relief appeared in the man's eyes. However, when he heard what Yishao had to say, the warmth in his eyes vanished, replaced by sheer killing intent. My queen, secondary consort Xue has arrived. Hearing Xueru's name, Jiang Peihuan's eyes darkened. Looking at Yishao, Jiang Peihuan ordered, Go personally, inform my mother about this, and ask her to come over.
Yes.
In the courtyard of the plum garden, Xueru stood there, taking in the scenery, her eyes filled with complex emotions. She remembered her first visit here. She couldn't understand she and Jiang Peihuan were alike. So why was there such a disparity between them? Lost in her thoughts, Xueru suddenly felt her wrist being grabbed. The next thing she knew, her wrists were bound. Seeing this, panic appeared in her eyes. What are you doing, you? As Xueru struggled, she saw Jiang Peihuan approaching. It had been a long time since Xueru last saw Jiang Peihuan. Now, watching the approaching figure, Xueru's eyes were filled with mixed feelings. Jiang Peihuan was dressed in a green plain dress. There weren't any excessive decorations on her, yet she looked stunningly beautiful. Xiao Nani, supporting her hand, stood by her side, his eyes full of tenderness. Huan Er, ask them to let me go. It was me who ordered them to tie you up. Before Xueru could finish, Jiang Peihuan cut her off. Hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Xueru quickly spoke. Why? Hearing this, Jiang Peihuan paused momentarily, then laughed. Yet, the laugh was filled with sarcasm. Looking at Xueru, Jiang Peihuan said softly, Secondary consort Xue, have you forgotten your own misdeeds? What did I do?
Slap.
As Xueru spoke, she felt a sharp pain on her face. She looked up to see Xue Yin standing in front of her, her eyes filled with coldness. Mother! Seeing Xue Yin take action, Jiang Peihuan was taken aback and rushed over. However, Xue Yin grabbed Jiang Peihuan's hand. Huan Er, let me handle this, all right? When Xue Yin spoke, her eyes were full of guilt. Hearing her words, Jiang Peihuan didn't hesitate and nodded. All right. Hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Xiao Nani frowned but didn't say anything, and left with Jiang Peihuan. After the two left, Xue Yin looked directly at Xueru. I thought you were just foolish, but I didn't expect you to be this cruel. I don't want Huan Er to dirty her hands, so he'll deal with you personally. Saying this, Xue Yin pulled out her dagger. Seeing Xue Yin's actions, Xueru was terrified. Aunt, what are you doing? Am your niece, you? Before she could react, Xueru felt excruciating pain in her wrists and then her ankles. Xue Yin had severed the tendons in Xueru's hands and feet, rendering her completely disabled. Throwing the dagger to the side, Xue Yin said to Xueru, I'm not your aunt. One don't have a niece as malicious as you. Xueru, you share the Xue surname. I can't kill you, but I can make you a cripple so you can never harm Huan Er again. With that, Xue Yin turned and ordered, take her to the Prince Qing mansion.
Yes.
Soon after, Xueru was carried away. Jiang Peihuan and Xiao Nani, standing in the courtyard, saw Xueru being taken. Jiang Peihuan's expression was calm, while Xiao Nani looked somewhat surprised. At that moment, Han Feng approached Xiao Nani and whispered, Master, everything you instructed has been arranged. Then let's go and inform the Imperial Astronomical Bureau astronomical supervisor.
Yes.
What did you ask Han Feng to do? After Han Feng left, Jiang Peihuan couldn't help but ask. Facing Jiang Peihuan's gaze, the man replied softly, nothing much, just avenging you. Revenge? Jiang Peihuan was confused, but the man only whispered, you'll know soon. An hour later, news spread that Emperor Qiming was critically ill. The palace's doctors frequently visited the Qianqing Hall, but to no avail. In the end, the Imperial Astronomical Bureau astronomical supervisor stepped in and said that Emperor Qiming was cursed. 2 hours later, the Imperial Army found a small wooden puppet filled with Emperor Qiming's birth characters in the Prince Qing mansion. It was filled with silver needles. Bastard, what have you done? Emperor Qiming looked at the little wooden puppet on the ground and directly kicked Xiao Juanhao in the chest. Chapter 345. Jiang Yan's death. The Emperor of Qiming exerted a considerable amount of force, causing Xiao Juanhao to spit out a mouthful of fresh blood. That wasn't enough. The Emperor kicked Xiao Juanhao several more times. Xiao Juanhao didn't dare to dodge. Only when the Emperor of Qiming stopped did Xiao Juanhao kneel and speak. Imperial Father, please calm your anger. One don't know what I've done wrong to anger you so. You dare to ask? Hearing Xiao Junhao's words, the anger that had just subsided in the Emperor of Qiming surged again. He pointed to the wooden puppet on the ground and then looked at Xiao Juanhao. You dared to curse me? You bastard, do one still exist in your eyes? Imperial Father, one truly didn't know about this. It was the Imperial Guards who found this in your princess consort's quarters. Do you dare say you didn't know? Hearing Xiao Junhao's words and the relentless questioning from the Emperor of Qiming, Xiao Juanhao simply shook his head. By the end of it, Xiao Junhao's eyes were full of pain. Imperial Father, one truly didn't know.
I swear, if one had known, may thunder strike me down, and may first have no place for burial.
Xiao Juanhao raised 3 fingers above his head, swearing solemnly. Seeing Xiao Junhao's gesture, the anger in the Emperor of Qiming's eyes eased slightly, but upon seeing the wooden puppet on the ground, he still asked angrily, You truly didn't know? I truly didn't know. That's your princess consort. How could you not know? Imperial Father, have you forgotten? You bestowed Jiang Yan upon me. As the Emperor of Qiming's words settled, Xiao Juanhao softly said. Upon hearing this, a complex emotion flashed in the Emperor's eyes. But soon after, he looked at Xiao Juanhao with dissatisfaction. So, you are blaming me now? I wouldn't dare. After kowtowing to the Emperor of Qiming, Xiao Juanhao whispered, Imperial Father, when the king of Jiangzhou rebelled, it was the imperial uncle who pacified Jiangzhou. The Jiang family surely harbors resentment against Imperial Father. After Jiang Yin married into the Qing mansion, she still held a grudge against you. I was always cautious, yet this incident occurred. This is my mistake, and I ask for your punishment. If Xiao Juanhao had been evasive, the Emperor of Qiming would have grown weary. However, seeing Xiao Juanhao admit his mistake, the Emperor's expression softened. After observing Xiao Juanhao, who was kneeling on the ground, the Emperor of Qiming remained silent for a few seconds and then asked, What if one asked you to divorce Jiang Yin? At this, there was a moment of hesitation in Xiao Junhao's eyes. After a long while, Xiao Juanhao whispered, Imperial Father, although Jiang Yin is at fault, she is still my wife. All the mistakes are mine. Please punish me. Upon saying this, Xiao Juanhao lowered his head. From an angle where no one could see, Xiao Junhao's eyes were full of darkness. Upon hearing his words, all the anger in the Emperor of Qiming's eyes had disappeared. If Xiao Juanhao had immediately distanced himself from Jiang Yin, the Emperor of Qiming would have grown suspicious. But seeing Xiao Juanhao shoulder the blame, warmth appeared in the Emperor's eyes. After a while, the Emperor of Qiming looked at Xiao Juanhao and said, All right, go back now. I will handle Jiang Yin. You don't need to worry about her anymore. But from now on, she is no longer your princess consort. Imperial Father? Get out. Before Xiao Juanhao could say anything, Emperor Qi Ming directly spoke. Meeting Emperor Qi Ming's gaze, Xiao Juanhao dared not utter another word. He promptly left the Qinqing palace. But the moment he stepped outside the palace gates, his eyes were filled with laughter. Yet, that smile was devoid of warmth. It was cold and menacing. Soon after, Zhang Yin was taken away by the imperial guards. When she was brought to the Supreme Court, Zhang Yin remained calm. But when she saw who had arrived, her face changed immediately. Hearing footsteps, Zhang Yin quickly lifted her head. "It's you." Seeing Zhang Peihuan, Zhang Yin spoke with a mixture of emotions. Zhang Peihuan looked at Zhang Yin sitting on the ground, her eyes filled with complexity. After a brief moment, she turned to leave. Seeing Zhang Peihuan's retreating figure, Zhang Yin cried out in shock. "Zhang Peihuan, don't you want to know why I wanted to kill you?" Hearing the footsteps behind her, Zhang Peihuan stopped, though she did not turn around. "I originally wanted to know the answer when one first came, but now I suddenly feel it's unimportant." Saying this, Zhang Peihuan continued to walk forward. However, Zhang Yin yelled, "Stop right there." Perhaps moved by the intensity in the voice behind her, Zhang Peihuan paused. She then looked over at Zhang Yin from a distance. "Zhang Peihuan, when I first saw you, I wanted to be friends with you. But later, I realized we could never be friends because one was too jealous of you. Why is it that everything goes well for you while one ends up like this? I'm no less than you. Isn't this the result of your own choices?" Throughout Zhang Yan's speech, Zhang Peihuan remained silent. Only when she finished did Zhang Peihuan softly respond. Her words were light, but they left Zhang Yin looking pale. Then, footsteps approached again. Lifting her head, Zhang Yin saw Xiao Nani, who came to stand beside Zhang Peihuan. The man's eyes held worry. He placed his cloak around Zhang Peihuan and meticulously fastened it. After ensuring she was covered, he said, "Aren't you done with your questions? It's cold in here. You're pregnant. Take care not to catch a chill." His voice was filled with concern, but his eyes held nothing but tenderness. Upon hearing Xiao Nanya's words, Zhang Peihuan softly said, "I'm done." "Then let's go." Hearing this, the man immediately took Zhang Peihuan's hand and led her out. Throughout, Xiao Nani didn't spare Zhang Yin a single glance. Watching the man's retreating figure, Zhang Yan's eyes filled with complexity. She remembered the first time she saw Xiao Nani. He was filled with murderous intent, and she believed that such a man was devoid of emotion. Later, she realized that Xiao Nani wasn't emotionless. Instead, he had given all his affection to one person, Zhang Peihuan. Heh, ha ha ha. Watching the figures of Zhang Peihuan and Xiao Nani disappear around the corner, Zhang Yin suddenly laughed. But amidst her laughter, as if recalling something, she cried out in the direction they had left. "It wasn't me, Zhang Peihuan. It wasn't me, it was..." At that moment, a shadow suddenly appeared before Zhang Yin. Chapter 346. Fantasy. Zhang Yan's eyes lit up with surprise and joy. "Zhang Peihuan, it's you." However, when she saw that the person approaching was Lin Mingyao, the surprise in Zhang Yan's eyes disappeared instantly. At this moment, Lin Mingyao's eyes were filled with smiles. Gazing at Zhang Yin, she spoke gently. "What do you want to say? Do you want to tell Zhang Peihuan that all of this was orchestrated by me from behind the scenes?" Hearing this, Zhang Yan's face changed, and after a brief moment, she said coldly, "You admit it then?" "Yes, I admit it," Lin Mingyao responded. "But if you hadn't foolishly sent Shui Ru to seek out Zhang Peihuan, you wouldn't have fallen into the trap." Seeing Lin Mingyao openly acknowledge her actions, Zhang Yin, full of confusion, questioned, "Why? Why?" Haha. Upon hearing Zhang Yan's question, Lin Mingyao paused, then burst out laughing, as if she had heard a delightful joke. However, even though Lin Mingyao's face was filled with laughter, there wasn't a trace of amusement in her eyes. They were filled with darkness and resentment. Once she stopped laughing, Lin Mingyao, with a look of malice, stared at Zhang Yin, Why, you ask? Jiang Yin, do you know that I was originally meant to be the princess consort of the Prince Qing? But because of you, I became a side consort. I could have accepted this, as he doesn't love you. But you shouldn't have continuously provoked me. You took what was rightfully mine. How could you then flaunt it in front of me? Every time you flaunted yourself in front of me, I wanted to kill you. So when you steal from others, was Xiao Juanhao truly yours? Upon hearing Jiang Yan's words, Lin Mingjio's expression changed instantly. Seeing this, Jiang Yan laughed. She said lightly, Lin Mingyao, you're an intelligent woman. Surely, you understand better than I who truly resides in Xiao Junhao's heart. Shut up. What? Getting angry out of embarrassment, Lin Mingyao. Are you afraid to admit it, or are you trying to deceive? Jiang Yin continued speaking, but suddenly, she couldn't utter another word. She collapsed to the ground. Lin Mingyao, watching this scene, approached with a smile. Staring at Jiang Yin, Lin Mingyao chuckled. Did you forget that I am a doctor? As she spoke, Lin Mingyao swiftly drew a dagger from her sleeve. Before Jiang Yin could react, Lin Mingyao plunged the dagger into her heart, stating, I won't let anyone humiliate me, including you. With those words, she pressed harder, and soon after, Jiang Yin closed her eyes. Moments later, Jiang Yin stopped breathing. After doing all of this, Lin Mingyao left. Upon leaving the Supreme Court, she didn't head back to the Qing mansion, but instead went to the Lin family residence. Standing in front of the Lin mansion, Lin Mingjio's eyes revealed a mix of emotions. Seeing his reaction, Lin Mingyao persisted, You're now favored by the emperor. Supporting the prince will be beneficial for your future. Ha ha ha. Upon hearing this, Lin Xingchen couldn't contain his laughter any longer. Seeing his reaction, Lin Mingyao became visibly upset. What's so funny? I find it utterly ludicrous. Have you forgotten? One serve King Cheng. You're asking me to side with Prince Qing. What are you thinking? The entire Qi kingdom knows that the prince whom King Cheng dislikes the most is Prince Qing. Xiao Juanhao beckoned Lin Mingyao closer, and as she approached, he whispered something into her ear. Whatever he said left Lin Mingyao in shock, but she nodded. All right, one will prepare the potion. Seeing her nod, Xiao Juanhao gently held her hand and whispered, Yao Er, am entrusting this matter to you. Your Highness, don't worry. Yao Er will definitely handle this well. I trust you. Having said that, Xiao Juanhao left Lin Mingjio's room. Watching Xiao Junhao's retreating figure, the warmth in Lin Mingjio's eyes vanished instantly, revealing only coldness. General Mansion. My queen, that guard has been killed by Lin Mingyao. In that case, Jiang Yan was killed by Lin Mingyao. Hearing Yi Xiao's words, Jiang Peihuan replied faintly. Even if Lin Mingyao didn't kill her, Jiang Yan's death has something to do with her. Did you hear her say anything else? No. Shaking her head, Yi Xiao continued. As I was about to approach, Prince Qing entered Lin Mingjio's room. One was afraid of being discovered, so I didn't dare to get closer and came back. Hearing Yi Xiao's words, Jiang Peihuan fell silent. After a moment, she said, It seems Xiao Juanhao already knows about Lin Mingyao killing Jiang Yan. Even if he knows, he won't do anything. As soon as Jiang Peihuan finished her sentence, Xiao Nani immediately spoke. However, this matter cannot be let go like this. After saying that, Xiao Nani called out, Han Feng, Master. Han Feng was outside the door. Hearing Xiao Nani's voice, he immediately opened the door and entered. After a glance, Xiao Nani said, Go to the palace and inform my imperial brother about this. By the way, find a way to present the evidence to him."
Yes.
After bowing to Xiao Nani and Jiang Peihuan, Han Feng left the room. Watching Han Feng's retreating figure, Jiang Peihuan looked at the man beside her in confusion. "Why do you want to inform the emperor?" "It's naturally to let imperial brother know that you have nothing to do with this." Hearing this, Jiang Peihuan's eyes showed a hint of a smile. In the imperial palace, after hearing Han Feng's words, Emperor Qi Ming said coldly, "Is your master still in the general's mansion?"
Yes.
"You bastard. When your master causes trouble, don't you know to persuade him?" Han Feng, who was scolded for no apparent reason, after a few seconds of silence, Han Feng couldn't help but say to Emperor Qi Ming, "Your Majesty, do you think my master is someone we can advise?" "I'm afraid you won't be able to persuade him. Get out." Hearing Han Feng's words, Emperor Qi Ming was taken aback, and then his eyes filled with anger. He scolded Han Feng. Han Feng, hearing this, said nothing and ran off. "Your Majesty, have some water." Wang Kuan, who was standing nearby, quickly approached, holding a teacup. Taking the teacup from him, Emperor Qi Ming said irritably, "Truly, like master like servant." Wang Kuan didn't know how to respond. Emperor Qi Ming finished the tea in the cup and then resumed reviewing the memorials. But an hour later, Emperor Qi Ming fell asleep on the table. Seeing this, Wang Kuan was a little surprised but said nothing. He covered the emperor with a cloak. In the subsequent days, Emperor Qi Ming often fell asleep suddenly, and for increasingly longer durations. Qinqing Palace. How is it? Is there something wrong with my body? Chapter 349. Curing Emperor Qi Ming. Looking at the imperial doctor kneeling before him, Emperor Qi Ming spoke directly. "What's the diagnosis?" The chief of the medical institution responded softly, "Your Majesty, based on your pulse, your health seems perfectly fine. But if there's nothing wrong with my body, why have I been falling asleep for no reason these past few days?" Emperor Qi Ming interrupted him before he could finish. Hearing this, the imperial doctor fell silent. After a moment, he murmured, "Your Majesty, perhaps you've just been too exhausted lately. One would suggest you get more rest." "Enough, you may leave." Hearing this, Emperor Qi Ming felt annoyed. Every doctor said the same thing. But Emperor Qi Ming clearly felt his body growing weaker, yet every medical check revealed no issues. His eyes revealed his frustration. Even though he's an emperor, he's still human. He fears death, perhaps even more than the average person. "Your Majesty, should we invite Queen Cheng to examine you?" At that moment, Wang Kuan approached and whispered. Hearing this, Emperor Qi Ming looked puzzled for a moment, casting a doubtful gaze at Wang Kuan. Seeing the emperor's confused expression, Wang Kuan continued, "Your Majesty, have you forgotten? Queen Cheng is renowned for her medical expertise. Wasn't the empress' health also restored under her care?" Hearing Wang Kun's words, a glint of hope appeared in Emperor Qi Ming's eyes. After some thought, the emperor whispered to Wang Kuan, "Go personally and summon Jiang Peihuan to the palace, but make sure this remains discreet." "Rest assured, Your Majesty, I know what to do." After bowing to the emperor, Wang Kuan immediately left the palace. Once outside, Wang Kuan headed directly to the general's mansion. Soon, he encountered Xiao Nani and Jiang Peihuan. Jiang Peihuan was enjoying the plum garden with Xiao Nani. Hearing that Wang Kuan had arrived, the two approached him. "Greetings, King and Queen Cheng." Seeing Xiao Nani and Jiang Peihuan, Wang Kuan quickly bowed in respect. After taking a seat, Jiang Peihuan said, "Chief Wang, you needn't be so formal. What brings you here today? Does the emperor have any orders?" "Queen Cheng, I've come today to request a favor." "Chief Wang, just speak your mind." After hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Wang Kuan looked around. Noticing his gaze, Jiang Peihuan instructed, "Everyone, leave us." Once the hall was emptied, Jiang Peihuan turned her attention back to Wang Kuan. "Queen Cheng, the emperor sent me to invite you to the palace." Wang Kuan lowered his voice and briefly explained the situation. Queen Cheng, this matter shouldn't be delayed. One request you accompany me to the palace. I'll come with you right away. I'll accompany you. Jiang Peihuan turned to look at Xiao Nani, but before she could say anything, she heard his deep voice. An hour later, Jiang Peihuan and Xiao Nani boarded the carriage to the palace. When Jiang Peihuan and Xiao Nani entered the Qinqing Palace, Emperor Qiming was reviewing petitions. Upon hearing their footsteps, he set down his brush. Greetings, Your Majesty. Stepping forward, Jiang Peihuan bowed to Emperor Qiming. As she did so, she instinctively glanced at him. With just one look, she knew that the emperor had been poisoned, as he looked extremely fatigued. Has Wang Kuan already informed you of the matter? Sitting down in a chair, Emperor Qiming looked directly at Jiang Peihuan. Jiang Peihuan nodded, then said, Your Majesty, allow me to take your pulse. Upon hearing her words, Emperor Qiming extended his hand. Jiang Peihuan held onto his wrist to check his pulse, being very thorough. After finishing, she couldn't help but frown. Emperor Qiming had indeed been poisoned, and the poison was extremely potent. What's with that expression? Emperor Qiming, noticing her concerned look, asked coldly. Hearing his words, Jiang Peihuan said, Your Majesty, you've been poisoned. What did you say? Hearing this, Emperor Qiming's eyes widened in shock. With a serious gaze, Jiang Peihuan continued, You've been poisoned, and it's extremely potent. At first, it will cause you to fall into a deep slumber, but after a month, it will kill you in your sleep. The emperor's eyes filled with fury. How audacious! Looking at Xiao Nani, Emperor Qiming ordered, Handle this. I want to see who dares to target me. As he spoke, he began to cough. Seeing this, Jiang Peihuan hurriedly advised, Your Majesty, you must not get too agitated, or the poison will act faster. Upon hearing this, Emperor Qiming took a deep breath, trying to calm himself. He then looked at Jiang Peihuan. Since you know I'm poisoned, do you have a cure? Yes, but it's complicated. Emperor Qiming's demeanor softened upon hearing the first word, but it quickly turned cold again when she continued, What's so complicated? To cure you, one need to use acupuncture. However, the insertion of the needles can be extremely painful. Hearing the mention of severe pain, a look of concern appeared in the emperor's eyes. But after a moment's thought, he firmly stated, Go ahead with the needles. I can endure a bit of pain. An hour later, a suppressed scream emanated from the Qinqing Palace. It was from Emperor Qiming. He sat in the chair with silver needles protruding from his scalp. At the moment, he felt as if someone was continuously hammering his head. Looking at Jiang Peihuan standing in front of him, he asked, Isn't there any other method besides this? We could use medicine, but its effects are not as good as acupuncture. Plus, there could be lingering side effects. Would you prefer to be treated with medicine, Your Majesty? Emperor Qiming, after a few seconds of silence, he tightly clenched his fist and whispered, This pain is nothing to me. As his words faded, he saw Jiang Peihuan preparing more silver needles. Seeing her actions, panic flashed in the emperor's eyes. What are you doing? Your Majesty, this will help you recover faster. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.